well around the Earth due to the displacement of the mass of the Earth, central to its center of mass, has caused this to basically, in layman's, update like naturally as it goes around the ball. It has caused that it is effectively taking the responsibility for that change needed, that change in the arc needed. That's what your side says. Like it doesn't say intergalactic missiles. They account for curvature, and gravity does this much, and then we have to account for the rest of it, or we'll be off because we're going around a ball. They say gravity does it all, dude.
Again, you're invoking the fact that we don't have a 100% explanation, therefore we know nothing. Which is just
no. We know a lot of
ridiculous to
stuff.
say.
We know a lot of stuff, but we just don't know as much as they told us we know.
Maybe we don't have every single answer, but that doesn't invalidate things we do know. So you should stop making your arguments come from that position.
My argument is that it doesn't invalidate things we do know, like the empirical default position. But we were told a lot of things that we supposedly know. We simply don't know them. Like when we were told about gravity and general relativity, we weren't told that like it's in contention, it's off in the 50s. We found out that it's off by a huge number, and we got to figure it out. Something's drastically wrong. It's just the best we have right now. We weren't told that. We weren't told in school, well, people looked and they originally thought the Earth wasn't moving because the sky moves. Because you weren't told that in elementary when they teach you.
How do you know what I was told?
That's not how the education system works.
How do you know what I was told, man?
Are you saying that I'm wrong?
It shouldn't be a contention here, Mackie. Everything WITSIT's saying is general.
I mean, they don't teach PhD level physics in kindergarten.
No, but they shouldn't teach them like it's a known fact when it actually isn't, bro. That's my point.
It's an inverted pyramid where you learn just a little bit about what is the current state of knowledge, and as you progress, you learn more and more.
But shouldn't we present the evidence to the children?
Not everybody studies physics for a living.
Fair, but shouldn't we present the evidence to the children where they have to think through it and come to their decision?
You don't explain sexual reproduction to a child. You might use the birds and the bees as an analogy.
Wow,
until they're able to understand it.
All right, am I allowed to finish? You can actually give it to them relative to the terms that they comprehend relative to their age, right? No matter what, my point still remains. My point still remains. Dude, guys.
Let him finish. Please let him finish.
My point still remains is that it's to be more productive just for society in general if we could teach children to think for themselves, not just regurgitate. So you give them all the evidence, even if flat Earth is stupid and archaic. You just explain, well, people used to think the Earth's flat because when you look out over large bodies of water, it looks flat. That's what old elementary books used to say, literally. And then when you look at the sky and it looks like it's moving, well, it just looks like that because actually the Earth is moving. So people used to think the Earth wasn't moving because when the sky moves, you have two choices. Either the sky's moving or the Earth's moving, just making it look like that. We weren't taught like this. That's my point. That is sketchy.
My kids.
I don't know how you were taught or if you were taught. I'm beginning to question.
Oh, yeah. I went to private school, college preparatory high schools, man, a private university. So
I don't think it matters how, I guess in some ways it's relevant, but teaching people what people used to believe and why they believed it, it's, we should teach people what we know to be true now and why we know that to be true.
But in 2021, there are millions of people that don't think we know it to be true, Jim. And if we're going to be honest, the children should get to hear all the evidence and make their own mind up. We need to teach children how to think, right? Because now we have robots walking around just staring at their phone. They don't think, they Google.
I think we do. I think there's lots of critical thinking in the way that children are taught now. I think that the idea that they're just taught to regurgitate is really nonsense.
Well, in this scenario specifically,
I worked in a school, and that definitely wasn't my experience.
Well, when I raised my hand in class and I said, wait, so if the gravitational pull, and I was really young, if the gravitational pull of the sun is, yes, I did, is pulling the Earth. Yes, I did.
Hang on, let him finish.
Anyway, it was my physics teacher, dude.
Let him finish.
Okay, so anyway, I was just like, wait, so if the gravitational pull of the sun is pulling the Earth around it because it's so much stronger than the Earth, right, because it's so much bigger, then, and the moon is being pulled around the Earth, right, like, wouldn't the sun's gravitational, pull not affect the moon also? Because it's so much bigger than that. Like, even if it's in the sweet spot where the Earth is making it revolve, like, there still it's going to have to go one way or the other. It's going to be closer to the Earth relative to its mass to make it go closer to the Earth eventually over time, or it'd have to go closer to the sun over time. I was just genuinely curious. My teacher didn't know the answer, but you know what she didn't do? She didn't let's think about this and have an honest discussion. We just moved on. And my point is just we're fighting for the right for everyone to be told the information freely, that we're not censored, that it's not misrepresented, that flat Earth society doesn't get propped up when we know no real flat earthers think that. right? And if we could just have the honest representation, this is a free society, bro. Like, whether you think I'm crazy or dumb or dense or stubborn or going to die just ignoring the truth, whatever you think or paint of me, right? Like, we all have the right to find information freely, bro. That's very important
Right,
as
but
a
that
society.
doesn't mean that should be taught in schools.
It sounds like you should
The-
get your
the
money back
empirical
from that
evidence should
private
be
school
taught.
then.
Wow, ad hom. Yeah, empirical evidence should be taught in school.
How is that
man.
an ad hom? You asked a question and they refused to address it.
Oh yeah, she did. Yeah, she didn't know the answer at the time. They had not even come out and gave a metric of the change, which now they say it
Have you-
goes to away from the
I
Earth,
feel
an
the
inch and a half a
censorship-
year.
I feel the censorship of YouTube was a bit of a lazy thing, right? Like, instead of teachers getting more educated in why they believe and explaining it to kids, or learning how to explain it to kids, the society just decided, let's censor YouTube so we don't have these questions coming anymore, and we don't have people turning into flat-tards. Like, I think that was lazy.
Yeah,
So,
see, even from his
what's
perspective, he's making a logical point.
It's
up?
not
I thought you actually had a
feasible.
good question. That was a good question to ask. And I think sometimes it's difficult for teachers because when they have to teach beyond the scope of what their curriculum is, they might not be able to answer all questions. The question, or the answer to your question, involves higher levels of science education than where you may have been at that time. I don't know how they go about answering that question.
Yeah, well, they say the official story says, I now know in my adulthood, because I research the depth. I would just think in my own mind, and I'd be like, wait, okay, this is the point I got to where it's not making sense. Let me go find out what the official narrative says. They now say that the moon goes away an inch and a half a year. Okay, so it's basically negligible. We won't ever notice like a size change for quite a while. Like, there won't be a noticeable size change for a long time. And this is the convenient answer I've found every single time for years, which is, well, we don't see much movement in the sky, but we're not expected to because the sky's so big. We're in such a small portion of the time that we're perceiving through all this distance because of light traveling that you would never notice a perceivable difference. It would take a long time to really see it.
But
Right?
did
Like,
you ever,
that's their band-aid is big numbers.
did you ever get an answer to why the Earth doesn't fall into the sun?
That wasn't my question. Wasn't that?
Wasn't your question
Although
that
over
the sun
time,
is
it
much
actually
bigger and
your
pulls
model
on the
claims
Earth
it.
more?
Your model claims that it is ultimately going to basically fall into the sun.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
Hmm?
Yeah, your
The
model
sun could
claims.
blow up before then, though.
Yeah, you're in a gradual
Um,
pulling in towards the mass that's bigger.
Okay, over how
I'm
long?
not sure where you got that from, WITSIT.
Okay.
Tell us what our model says. How long is that going to take?
Probably like
Educate me, because I really don't know.
billions of years. You know.
Okay, so I don't got to worry about it then. All right. Good.
No,
Thanks.
you don't got to ever worry about
What-
the holes in the model.
What about what WITSIT's point was?
Yeah, his point was that the sun has a big pull, and why don't things like the moon and the Earth go towards that pull? It's much
No,
stronger.
he wants to know why the moon's not pulled away from the Earth by the sun.
Yeah,
It had to be what I'm saying is it had to be one way or the other. Like, even me at a younger age, I put this together. Like, either it's just coincidentally perfectly in the area that there would be no differential, or it's going to go closer to the Earth or closer to the sun over time because it's effectively two gravity well strengths like competing this, for dibs on the moon, if to put it crudely.
Stronger.
So, but they say that it goes an inch and a half away from the Earth. That's the official narrative.
Which one's stronger?
The sun.
why do you say that?
At the location of the moon, which one is stronger?
Well, you would think the Earth because it's much closer, but apparently the sun's a little bit stronger.
Where is the L1 point?
Can I answer this briefly? Because
This is somebody who claims to have researched this. Where's
Yeah,
the
man.
L1 point? What's it?
Where's the what?
The L1 Lagrangian point.
The Lagrange point.
You tell me.
It's a ZZ Top song, actually.
1,000,000 miles away from the Earth in the
Okay.
Earth-Sun line.
Okay. So you're saying that your story
The-
doesn't say that it's getting further away from us
The
every year?
moon is like a little bit less than a quarter of that distance away from that,
I know.
I'll call it balance point. What's it?
Okay.
Now, the Earth is stronger in that pole.
Right, because of distance.
What we're
Obviously.
saying- what
I
we're
knew
saying
this
is you
when
know
I was
nothing
like
about what you're
13 when
talking
I asked the
about when it
question.
comes to Earth, is what we're telling you.
Okay, well, you never did seem to find out the answer on your own, even though you were
Yeah,
proclaiming
well,
that
this
you
is the
did.
answer, that actually the moon goes an inch and a half away from the Earth every year.
And why
Why
is
is that? Why does it do that?
Because it's in the ultimate gravity well of the sun.
It's no.
It is.
When the moon is on the other side of the Earth, the sun is pulling the moon towards the Earth and sun.
Yeah, seems like a
accelerates
weirdo
in one
contradiction
way.
problem you have
So
in your
that-
worldview.
Not the issue. It's not the sun pulling the moon away from the Earth. That's not why.
It's in the ultimate gravity well, right? So the ultimate gravity well is having
Not
an
right.
effect on. Yeah, okay, so what's the answer then?
The answer is that
You already did your research and you found out, dude. I'm trying to find
No, I
out
know
what
the
it
answer.
is.
I know the answer is that you're in the ultimate gravity well of the sun. It's like a giant whirlpool, dude. It has an effect on the entire area around the Earth as a whole.
Let's see what your research yielded.
Now that everybody's talked over everybody, can I answer where that extra distance comes from?
Please,
Yes.
let's hear it. Let's hear the fairy tale.
Yeah. It is basically stealing the rotation of the Earth and thereby actually going faster around the Earth. And that is what is basically the tides, the stuff that is moving around on Earth.
It's stealing the motion of the Earth.
Yeah, it's basically stealing our rotation.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that rotation that it's stealing from Earth. Earth is slowing down and the orbit of the moon is speeding up. And that interpretation causes the moon to, by going faster around, the orbit expands.
Okay, so we steal some of the momentum from the axial rotation of the Earth.
Yeah.
So once we finish our theory, how would I not understand this? This is like a kindergartner's band-aid.
You didn't even know it was a million miles.
I don't know how you don't understand
Yeah,
it.
we all know I do understand it.
Explanation. You can go into the mathematical explanation next.
Wait, no, so I just want you guys to realize you're just baselessly asserting that the moon is going to steal motion from the Earth, right? And then we're not going to notice it, though. We're just going to see the same face like we have for thousands of years. We're still going to have eclipses because the sun and the moon are going to appear to be like exactly the same damn size in the sky. We won't really notice it, but it's actually stealing momentum from axial rotation of Earth, and thus it's orbiting faster, but just not fast enough that we'll ever see it. But that's the answer for the mathematical problem of you being in the combative gravity wells.
No, that's not entirely true. Because when you spoke about the three-body problem, that is an actual three-body problem. And in that three-body problem that we can solve procedurally, we don't have a formula that makes it, you plug in this and that number and then you get it. We do have the procedural solution to it.
Right, so then I got you.
Meaning step by step we can calculate it. It's just not,
You can't solve the equation.
It's not an equation like EMC squared. It is more complex than that. You have to do it in steps. Okay?
Right. So what this comes down to is the question that I asked when I was younger instinctively still cannot be explained with a sufficient equation in 2021.
It is explained by an equation because it as I told you, the moon is stealing Earth's rotation, and that you could.
Can you empirically support that, man, or do you admit that's just a theory?
No, it's not a theory. You go with numbers. You know how far we say the moon is.
Yeah, 238 or so.
Yes, 238. Yeah, I don't do miles, but if it goes away by 1 1/4 inch or 1 1/2, or what did it say, 4 centimeters, that's not going to be a whole lot of change now, is it? And whatever rotation it steals to go that 1 1/2 inch is not going to be a lot now, is it?
But I'm asking about the stealing part. Like, how did you empirically validate this mechanism where it steals axial rotation momentum? Like, would you like to admit that's just a theory?
No, it's measurable.
It's measurable. How they measure it?
I would presume by measuring
With
the
a moon
rotation of the
beam.
Earth and the change of it.
Okay, so
The
then they
moon
didn't
laser?
actually measure the mechanism itself, though. They just assumed it with a theory. That it steals
they
it.
made predictions with the theory, and then they tested it with lasers to see what is the actual change.
They never tested the cause of the change, though. All they did was quantify the change. The question here is, did they test the mechanism claim? No, you test the mechanism claim.
This is the proposed mechanism. Here's what this proposed mechanism would estimate and then you go and measure and see if it matches the estimation.
But you agree that many different proposed mechanism claims can actually estimate properly because you quantify the effect properly and still be wrong, though, right?
No, I don't agree with whatever you just said.
What. Okay, well then you're just being dishonest because
no. I think what you said didn't make any sense.
Okay, what you're saying is the way that you prove something is you don't actually independently verify the mechanism claim itself, right? You're going to quantify the effect. You're going to make a prediction, right, claiming that you're using your mechanism that you've input here theoretically. If you find the calculation you're looking for, then that proves the mechanism claim, right?
Yeah, and that's definitely evidence for it.
Evidence for it, right? Mm-hmm. But I asked you, so that does mean, though, of course, that can happen. Something can adequately explain something mathematically, and then still the mechanism claim can actually be wrong, though. And you said no. I don't agree with that statement. But
I don't agree with what you said because that's not what you said.
Yes, it is, and even general relativity is doing that very thing, bro.
Great. Do you have another mechanism that you can propose that we can test?
Well, I just think it's important to acknowledge that we can't claim that one's
mechanism
real.
we currently have at the moment.
But I'm not trying to explain the heliocentric model. I'm thoroughly convinced it isn't the case, dude. Why would I go around with my head cut off trying to explain
another mechanism that is just as accurate, and we can talk about that.
Why would I bring something in just as accurate?
This is the only proposed mechanism we have.
But what I'm saying is
any predictive capability.
What I'm saying is that mechanism, right, is trying to explain phenomena in the lenses of the heliocentric model. I am not running around in futile pursuits, destined to oblivion, basically with my head cut off, trying to explain the theoretics of how it could be possible on a heliocentric model when I'm thoroughly convinced it is in fact not heliocentric. The Earth is the center. It's geocentric, and that the sky moves over top of us. I don't think that is how you explain the phenomena. You're asking me to refine your position because it's trash.
No, I'm not asking you to refine my position. I said present another position. Present another position that we can test by making predictions with it. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work.
Do sound waves need a medium to propagate?
Yes.
Okay, well, then what are sound waves propagating through in a vacuum?
Who said we're using sound waves in the vacuum?
Well, because originally, way back in the day, the reason that they assumed there to be a background...
Can you stick to one topic, please?
I am. Back in the day, the reason that they assumed there to be a background is because sound waves require a medium to propagate. And so they're like, okay, there's like an etheric background where this sound is propagating, right? Like an electromagnetic wave.
No.
Yes.
Electromagnetic waves are not sound waves.
Okay, but I'm explaining like almost verbatim words of what they said, dude.
I don't care what they said.
Okay, so
evidence,
now the point,
or you don't have anything.
But the main points of what they say. Well, yeah, that's my point is there are other explanations of what we see. Okay, the sky moves, the Earth doesn't move. Things move in the sky. We have an etheric background. It has a drift within it. There's energy all around you. You can astral project. You can have crazy things in your dreams. There's things all around us you can't see. You can't see wind. You can't. Where does water go whenever it disappears and evaporates? Do you actually see it? No, you can't pull your microscope out and see it either. So there are things that you can't explain that you can't see with your eyes. That doesn't mean they're not there. Just because you can't see them with the naked eye doesn't mean they're not there. That's the point.
But if you can't measure it, if you can't predict it, then it has no use.
Well, so actually, there's an argument
that don't have any predictability that you can't explain a mechanism for are useless to me.
There's basically a swirl
until you provide that evidence.
Yeah, there's basically a swirl over top
you
of
cannot
the Earth
provide evidence for.
That's
so I'm just going to dismiss it until you have that evidence.
No. The Sagnac effect, right? What the gyro utilizes when that person discovered that, he assumed that we were detecting a drift within the ether. So yeah, the quantification you guys use for axial rotation originally was used for the etheric background, the movement within. So yeah, I can still use the same quantification. It's actually more accurate.
You can't make any predictions with it.
Yeah, my prediction is that based on the latitude, you're going to get a different precession.
No, that's entirely not in line with what Sagnac said about it.
Oh, what'd he say then?
Well, eventually he came around and said to Einstein that he was right and there was no actual ether. But
yeah, because of why?
Because he spent his entire life being a stuck-up old asshole. And
oh, what year did he do that? What year did he go tell Einstein it was true? It was true.
I forgot, but I would guess around the 20s or something.
Yeah, far after 1897 or 87 or 77. I think it's 87. 1887.
Sagnac
So when
did
there was
that.
more information, he corrected his position.
Well, because they looked at the
That sounds like
Michelson-Morley.
something an honest person would
Because
do.
they looked at Michelson-Morley and they had to decide, well, dude, if the Earth was spinning and
So,
revolving, and there was an
How come
etheric
you don't
background,
have any evidence in this
Oh.
century for this?
Because this is
position,
the
let's say?
progression of where we are now. This is how we still are where we are now.
Oh, so you don't have any evidence for it. So why should
No,
we
the
consider
debate
it?
is still the same. You don't have any evidence.
think-
That's the point.
I'm asking you to
I think
give
you
us
may
your
be-
evidence.
I think you may be
Okay, like
misunderstanding
the very
some
precession
basics
you
with it.
detect on latitudes are relative to the Sagnac effect, which the
Yep.
person that discovered it said it was because of a drift in the ether.
No, you have to demonstrate the Sagnac effect or a predictive mechanism for it.
Yeah, the ether drift.
That's not a predictive mechanism, is it?
Well, what's the gyro do?
It processes
Okay, so yeah, it is a
And what does
predictive
it process on?
mechanism.
the
The
optical
rotational
gyro processes
momentum of the Earth at that point.
No, the
Those are
rotational
numbers that can be
momentum.
plugged in to
The
tell you something.
rotational momentum of the ether drift.
that we
Okay,
cannot
so
measure.
how can we detect the ether drift?
The same way that's what we're doing. In
You're
that
not, no, you
instance.
haven't demonstrated that this thing actually exists at all.
You haven't demonstrated that Earth
You're
spin
not even
actually
giving us
exists
a
at all.
mechanism by which we could test it.
Well, you haven't given me a mechanism by which I can test your claim that the Earth is spinning.
How is ether affecting the split path speed of the light in the ring laser gyros?
Yeah, because light is intrinsically part of the medium that's there. So there's a movement within that medium, and the light's propagating through it. So how light propagates through it is going to be relative to the movement in that medium. It's part of the medium.
Right? It doesn't explain why things
What
rotate in
is your
different
ether?
directions.
What
north and
ether are
south of the
you
equator,
talking
though.
of?
What ether
What
am I
ether?
talking about?
Yeah, what ether? What's it made of?
It's just a generalized term. Well, what is it made of? Well, I mean, I can't bottle up what's beyond the perceivable material world,
Does it matter?
but
Does it matter?
if you were going to try to quantify it in the terms of matter, it would be like thousands of times more dense than the material world. So it wouldn't be what we call matter, really. But
So
technically
how is it getting? How's it getting through the device into the light path?
Well, it's all around the device, always, everywhere it's at. And
How's
the
it
light
affecting the
itself
light path? How is it slowing up one path and slowing down the Earth?
Because the light
speeding up the other, based on the turn of the device.
The light itself is the medium that's being illuminated, and since there's a movement in that, right? You're introducing another movement to the light. That's just objectively what it is.
Yeah, you keep acting like you believe the shit you're spewing.
Okay, do you understand what I'm saying? Let me say it again. So, you're shooting light. You're going to get a precession. Okay, the light is in the medium that has a drift in it. So, based on where you are within that field of drift, when you introduce the additional movement of the light, you're going to get a precession relative to where you are within that medium the light's coming from, and the movement within that medium, and the additional momentum you've added with the light trajectory, dude.
So do you have an explanation or a mechanism for this ether drift?
We remember
That's what the Sagnac effect is.
Washed away, it was because the ether
So
scientists
you don't have an explanation of how it works.
I'm trying to say something. I'm trying to say something. It seemed like the ether scientists were really putting Einstein, on like notice, like this light constant thing. You know what I'm saying? Is something that he's making up, basically.
Yep. Yeah, they all took shots at Einstein, dude. There was an entire novel written, like hundreds of scientists got together and were like, this guy is just going off into fantasy world. This is not science. Because dude, if there is a background, the Earth spinning and revolving would change the precession you get, dude. So like they didn't see enough of a change in enough of a shift phase change, right?
WITSIT, do you have a proposition for a type of technology that we can build with ether science that we can't build with the other modalities?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't even fully explain phenomena on the globe model.
You should try it.
Unfortunately, your Sagnac effect does not account for the rotation north and south of the equator or in a vacuum.
A vacuum, the ether's still there. What are you talking about?
You can't even explain what the ether is then.
It's what's beyond the air, the perceivable matter. It's still there. There's a background. There's a background medium, dude.
Now, the whole claim of the ether obviously failed because it did not conform to the heliocentric model.
Correct.
And thus far, you're generally correct that if we reject the heliocentric model, the ether has a little more momentum. That's clear.
Thank you.
But that still relies on the claim that there is no heliocentrism.
Sure.
Right. Okay. So how do you explain that there's no rotation at the equator? Why doesn't the ether have any effect there?
Yeah, well, I think it's like a magnetic field, and so you're going to get a little bit more movement.
Okay, you can't claim that it's magnetic because it works on non-magnetic things.
It's a magnetic ether. Magnetic
No,
ether. Electromagnetic ether, maybe.
Yeah,
Oh my
that's
God.
within the ether, dude. Those are
No,
phenomena that
It's
are
a,
within the
it's a
ether.
get out of explanation pre-card. That's
No,
what it is.
That's what
dude.
you're
can you
basically giving us. Is what's it? You're giving us an explanation that has no predictive power. You can't actually explain it. You can't even tell us what it is.
I'm
It has
trying
no
to explain
explanatory
it.
power.
Dude,
Is
the
it-
predictive
is it
power
a
came from
rarefied
the person
gas?
that discovered it, dude, and he said it
Is
was
it
a
the
drift in the
rarefied
ether.
gas that your celebrated
I mean,
you know,
gas has a
scientists
definition.
of old
You can't
thought it
usurp the
was?
definition of gas for ether.
Yes or no? Let them answer.
You think I heard you, Kirk?
Is it the rarefied gas that they thought it was?
I actually think I lean more with Tesla, who said that the matter is the gaseous form of the ether. So, no.
Matter is a gaseous form of ether.
Yeah,
Right.
matter is, yeah.
Solid matter is a gaseous form of ether.
Yeah, it's just a crude analogy to put it into perspective, man. That was what Tesla called it.
It's not crude. That's stupid.
Oh yeah, Nikola Tesla's stupid. You're really knocking this out of the park.
Yeah.
If he said that, that's a stupid thing to say.
He also said that we know because of the efficacy of propagation of sound waves that the density of the background medium is thousands of times more dense than the air.
You can't be saying that the ether is material or mass because then we should be able to detect it. We can't detect it.
Well, that's the point.
It's
beyond the perceivable material world. That's why when you asked if it was matter, I got
definition of mass. Mass is measurable by
Hey, dude, do you know what
definition.
quantum field theory is, dude? They know that what I'm saying is real, okay? And that
is
gives
your
you
definition of ether.
Guys, what I'm trying to say is everyone on your side knows that what I'm saying is true.
The guy who detected who found ether. Who was he? When he found it, and how did he found it?
When did I say that?
Just
so the person that discovered the Sagnac effect, dude. He's the one.
Effect.
Yeah. Anyway, dude, it's still used in like the top tier of your academia. It's very valuable.
Is my mic working?
Is my mic working?
Equator.
My
yes,
mic work?
the mic is working. Yes.
My mic is working. Ranty, is your mic working? Your mic working?
Thanks for interrupting, Chemo. We appreciate it.
I'm just checking if Ranty's mic is working.
Yell from the background like the rest
interrupt
of
our
us.
conversation to check in on Ranty.
Ranty.
No, can I ask you
Don't
something
run away,
about
Ranty,
that
this time,
whole...
and let them get through this conversation, and then we're going to discuss how you gave us a black swan, Ranty. Hurrah! Okay,
Maybe
Ranty,
you could ask someone else that agrees with you to explain what ether is.
WITSIT, I had a little question about that ether thing because I gave you that whole, if we reject heliocentrism and all that.
Mhm.
Sure, yeah, you're right. If we do that, that will work. But the thing is, if you say the ether drift is what's causing the pendulum to process and the gyro and the Sagnac effect, wouldn't they show the same then?
Well, you're just picking up a certain portion of the drift with different mechanism, man. And pendulums, they get affected during the Elias effect. And you can't show them at the South Pole or the gyro at the South Pole. So.
And why does it slow down when it gets closer to the equator?
Because it's further away from the central point, and then the energy comes back down just like a magnetic field. I tried to already say this.
Okay, so is it a field or is it a gas and
matter? It's a field within the ultimate background medium. It has energy moving in it.
It can't be both. You realize that?
Yeah. The field is there's a background medium, and there's a certain energy field in it. That they're basically the same thing. It's just movements within the medium.
No,
there's an energy field.
I think this might
Can
go
I finish
over
my
some
freaking question? Now, we all know that Bob is quoted for that 15 per hour drift with the Sagnac effect on that optic gyro, right? But we don't see that in the pendulums. How does that work? How does
what do we see in the pendulum? Well, if it's both
it goes
detecting
to
axial
zero.
rotation, how does it change?
The pendulum goes to zero drift around the equator because there is no angular momentum on it.
Okay.
The Sagnac thing, though, it still reaches 15 no matter where you go.
Okay. Are they doing the same thing? One of them's looking at
They
light
are
with interferometry. One of them is looking at a pendulum.
Different mechanisms. They have different
obviously
Yeah, entirely
in
different.
our understanding they are doing the same thing, namely measuring rotation. So yeah.
Okay, they're measuring the rotation within the field.
Your understanding, they may be doing something else.
Yeah, the rotation in the field.
WITSIT.
Yeah,
You're saying
but they're not
that
doing the same thing now, are they?
you gotta listen to his claim. He's
I
claiming
am.
that the ether. No, I'm talking to you. I'm talking about you. You're claiming that the pendulum, which is a physical object, is being affected by something that's essentially non-physical.
Well, who said it was non-physical? If physical is defined as having a physical reaction or existing in the physical world, then yeah, sure, it's physical. And in the sense of like strictly matter, material in the perceivable world, then no, it wouldn't be physical. So you have to define terms.
There's a problem. The ether is supposed to permeate everything.
Mm-hmm.
Do you disagree?
No, it can, yeah.
But it either is or isn't.
Well, actually, the ether is proposed as the background medium, but matter is actually a version of it, according to Tesla, right? Like he said, the matter itself is a version of the ether. That when done into infinitesimal prodigious swirls of velocity, the ether would manifest as matter, but when the energy resided, it'd revert back into the ether.
Come on, you're avoiding it.
No, I'm not.
So everything is ether.
A version of it, yeah.
So
we're all tied together, guys, whether you like it or not.
So it permeates everything.
Yeah, man.
Explain how it makes a pendulum process physically.
Well, do you have to start the pendulum?
That's how a pendulum works.
Right, so you have to start it, and then you're going to measure a movement change, right?
Well, hold
Pendulums
on.
don't inherently rotate.
Yeah, you got to push it.
You're talking about something that's pushing the pendulum in a direction.
Okay,
Whether
you pushed it.
that pendulum's moving is irrelevant.
Well, yeah, well, no, it's not, because you don't pick it up unless you push it and make it start moving.
Are you listening?
Are you listening?
Your theory doesn't require the pendulum to be in motion.
Wrong.
True.
The ether is swirling above you all times.
Yeah, but but it's just a very light drift, and you detect it with the gyro because you're looking at light, and very, very intricately, mind you. Whenever you're trying to look at the physical mechanism of the pendulum from the 1851 that people still laughably invoke as if it's evidence for something, you have to push it yourself, and then you're going to actually detect a change in its movement over time.
Your idea doesn't require it to be in motion.
Right. So
because
attention that's being held should rotate in the same accordance if it's just ether making it move. Right?
Well, the ether didn't make it move. It's you pushing it that made it move.
No, I'm talking about the rotational movement.
Yeah, because it's just a slight movement. You got to get it into movement to see the difference.
If you have a tension beam that's in balance, it's being hung from a string, it should also rotate. Because of this light movement.
If the Earth was rotating under the pendulum, it would move by itself. So.
No, that's only detectable if you install a frame of reference to the pendulum by making it move in a plane. When it's sitting and not moving, there is no additional reference frame.
So it's the same reference frame as the Earth.
Yeah, because it's just sitting still.
Okay. So it's the same reference frame as the Earth, and then you have to move it. And once you do that,
once you make it start to swing, it has
Earth's
its own independent reference frame.
So
it does not rotate with the Earth.
It's the same frame of reference when it's still, though.
Yeah, because it's not moving.
Well, it is technically moving in your model, though.
It's moving as the Earth moves. It's not moving independent of that. Once you impact an independent movement, then you have two movements at the same time.
Well, you're assuming the first one. So the pendulum is in fact going 1,040 miles per hour east at the equator, right?
you don't get this movement at the equator, though. That's the problem.
Right, but it is still going the fastest at the equator, right?
Sure.
Right. So the Earth is spinning 1,040 miles per hour where this pendulum is at. And then you have to move it, and then you don't see a change. While it's wobbling on a tilt, going 1,000 miles an hour.
And this explanation is very well accounted for in a globe Earth model.
Yeah, and also in the model where the field goes
model.
up and down.
And there isn't a good mechanism that can explain it with any predictive capability.
Well, just look at a
That's the
magnetic field
problem.
under a ferrocell and use your mind, dude.
I mean, I don't understand why you can't explain it.
Use your
and think it's a good
brain, dude.
explanation.
I did. Look at a magnetic field. It comes back down around the outsides.
Not all Foucault pendulums are magnetic. You understand that, right?
They're all within a magnetic field, and everything's
So,
magnetic. Some of it's just not coherent.
Do magnetic fields affect things that are not magnetic?
Well, there's nothing that's technically not magnetic because it's just incoherently magnetic
So,
because
okay,
it's
then
not
things that are
aligned.
magnetic should move more than things that are not magnetic, right?
Sure, depending on the strength of
Okay,
magnetism and
so
where
if we
you
do
are.
two Foucault pendulums, one is a magnet and one is non-magnetic, we should see different rotation rates, right? Based on your theory of how the ether field works.
Well, I just think that that
If
is
you just give us an explanation like this, we can actually put it to the test.
the ether field is bigger than just the movement within it, right? I'm just saying, if you want a visualization of the way we know the only perpetual field that exists, which is magnetism, that's the only perpetual field we know. I'm not saying it's like the perceivable magnetism we have in the material world. It extends outside the material world, but the only field, which is not even accurately defined up into high academia still to this day, by the way, guys. The only field that we know that has perpetual energy, like it's self-governing, it's perpetual, is a magnetic field. So if we can look at that in a ferrocell and it would show, well, look, there's more motion here, and that's the only perceivable field that works. If the energy field, if there's an energy field that moves over top of us in the ever-encompassing medium, right, then yeah, it could look a lot like that field. I'm not saying that I have an orthographic Muppet vision of the Earth, dude.
Magnets don't have.
Why don't you just say you don't have an explanation? Because that's the long-winded way.
Oh, you should. Man, well, this is for the honest people, so.
Well, I mean, I don't think that you realize that we have done these tests, and magnets don't rotate faster or slower than non-magnetic.
Dude, it's not picking up the Earth spinning, dude.
Well, you just said that the ether was magnetic, so that version of the ether is disproven by that simple test.
Well, no, everything is magnetic, dude.
Magnetic things would be affected to a different degree than
Did I
non-magnetic
speak to the
things.
coherency of the magnetic field in the ether? Did I ever do that? Did I say it was really coherent, or do you not understand the difference?
Magnetic. So the one way
No,
to
but
test
I
for this
said
property would be to
twice
do
that
that.
not. I said twice that not everything is, or that everything is technically magnetic. Just some of it's incoherently
I
magnetic.
think you're running away from your previous
No, I'm not. You're just not understanding
definition
it.
of this field.
Have a
You don't have a real
magnetic
definition.
that is
Sorry,
too
you
weak to actually be perceptible, and at the same time have a perceptible effect on something.
Dude,
You're
you
double
think that
thinking.
something with the same frame of reference of the Earth is detecting axial rotation, dude? Whenever Einstein himself said, no optical experiment will ever be able to prove.
How do you measure coherency?
Well, it's good that the Foucault pendulum isn't optical, isn't it?
You don't use optics in the thing to. How do you know the difference in the movement then?
It's not an optical experiment.
I mean, you can measure it with any other kind of tool that's not optical.
Well, what
You don't have to
Einstein
see it?
actually said, just a minute. What Einstein actually said about the optical experiment was proving the motion of the Earth. Obviously, he meant all of the motion, those 16 vectors or whatever that is. He did not mean the rotation alone. He meant all the
Yeah, I know. You can't explain any of them. I get it. And then he finished it off by saying, although we know that the Earth revolves around the sun.
What Einstein said, he said you cannot measure them by an optical experiment on Earth.
You're adding to his quote.
It sounds like you quoted that one wrong, WITSIT.
No, it sounds like he added to his quote. I know exactly what he said.
You call things wrong all the time, man.
It's something that creationists flat Earth.
Einstein
I'm sorry you're scared there's a creator, but that doesn't make him go away.
He literally said you cannot detect the motions of the Earth by any optical experiment. That is not the same as you cannot detect them in any way. It's literally just says.
I didn't say in any way. I said optical experiment.
The Foucault's pendulum is mechanical.
Yeah.
All of the motions of the Earth. That is
Now you're adding to it.
Some of them.
You can't do any of them. No, you're adding to it.
Taking Einstein's word as gospel or something.
Because it's like your
was
priesthood.
eventually proven wrong.
It's called a hostile witness.
It doesn't matter who says what. All that matters is the actual evidence. What's
Well, general
You're like
relativity is
quoting
trash, and you
people
keep on to it and prop up
keep on
Einstein.
keep
you
looking
can't
for
tell
evidence that
you're
actually
a straw man and flat earther.
position,
How am I
please.
supposed to believe you on anything? You can't
Guys,
even
do you
tell
agree
if
general
someone's ripping you
relativity?
off.
I know everything about your religion. Guys, do you agree that general
You don't even know
relativity
if someone's ripping
isn't
you off,
a
WITSIT.
law?
You claim you know about our religion, yet
Do you
you
agree
seem
general
woefully,
relativity isn't a
you
law?
seem woefully inadequate at explaining yours.
I'm just
So
showing how
what the hell's
dishonest you
wrong?
guys are for the third party. Do you guys
I don't
agree
think
that
he's
general
honestly
relativity
explaining
isn't a
any of
law?
these positions. He can't explain the ether.
What exactly?
We
We
can't
can't
honestly
hear Slacker
explain.
verbal.
Chaotic.
Calm down, man.
Listening to this
I'm
guy.
just
Go on,
asking a simple
Slacker.
question.
And I'm asking
Chemo
you,
general relativity
what
is
exactly
for
do
the
you mean
idiot.
by law?
Yeah, like I'm just asking. Do you consider it a law, like a natural
What
law?
exactly do you mean by law?
Is general relativity a natural law?
What exactly do
It
you mean by
literally
law?
says
Natural
theory
law.
of relativity
Thought.
covered. Why are you asking that?
I just want you to be honest and say no.
I want you to be honest and explain yourself.
I just want to see if you can be honest. That's me explaining
you
myself. This
telling
is
me exactly what you
honestly
mean
me
by that
trying to
term.
figure out. This is a litmus test of your intellectual honesty. I'm just trying to figure out how desperate you guys will lie and
I'm
disagree
trying
with
to figure
anything
out
I say.
exactly what you mean by natural law.
You agree general relativity isn't a natural law, a
I haven't agreed to anything.
reoccurring
I'm
thing
asking
that
you a
happens in
question.
a reoccurring phenomena that happens in the natural world all the time, no matter what, and we know it to be true. Okay, like the second law of
Yeah,
thermodynamics.
we know it's a very accurate description of natural laws that we know has in places where it's incomplete.
Right. So it's not a law. And the reason that it definitely can't even be considered possibly as a law is because it doesn't work on all scales. A natural law would work.
It's still useful in certain places.
Okay.
And we know
On the
where it's
local
useful.
scale, it's useful.
What scales doesn't it work at?
The quantum or the cosmological scale, the galactic scale, whatever you want to call it.
Scale. It hasn't been refuted at the cosmological scale.
Well, it's off by a lot.
Bullshit. He's
So,
bullshit. Yeah, bullshit. Absolutely incorrect.
yep, 95% dark matter.
Dark matter. Boom. Done. That hasn't been reconciled. That they cannot fucking get the equation. I mean, it's done.
No, that has nothing to do with
Doesn't
why
work on
it's a
any scale
theory.
except for the local scale, and it was reverse engineered based upon phenomena on the local scale. So of course it does that.
No shit.
You know full well that's not why it's a theory.
How else are we supposed to get them?
I know it's a very stupid theory, and it's already being reluctantly let go of at the highest levels of academia. They just haven't come out on mainstream news and told you yet. So I read it, and they know it, and that's where quantum field theory got its birth, right? They're trying to explain something different. That's where electric universe got its birth, because dark matter is an occupancy, a material occupation of the quote-unquote universe that they did not previously acknowledge, that they now have a mathematical disciprency for. Substantive material occupation.
Let Slacker respond yet. Slacker, go on. Barely hear you.
I was just wondering
the
why
real
he's going down this. I was just wondering why he's going down this topic when his real contention is about the shape of the Earth. This is all extra.
Well, I just want to admit that I don't even have a. Okay, well, I just think it's relative to what we were talking about, and I'm just saying it's important for you guys to be honest here and at least acknowledge that you don't even have a working theoretical model yet. So.
But that's not important to your real contention.
Well, yeah, my contention is I don't blindly believe theoretical models that don't even work.
Well, that's fine, but the shape of the solar system, the motion of the Earth, the motion of the cosmos has nothing to do with the shape of the Earth.
Well, they can't adequately explain the motions. Yeah, they can't adequately explain the motions, but they claim that they know that the sun's 93 million miles away and a ball of gas in a vacuum. They claim that a star's a trillion light years away. Dude, when they claim a star is 19,000 light years away, right? This is a claim within your model.
When you're disagreeing with the shape of the Earth.
The shape of the Earth is just part of it. Yeah, your heliocentric model can't exist at all if the Earth's not a ball.
Your incredulity does not make it false.
Okay, well, we falsify the radius value by testing the geometric claim that you made.
Incorrect.
When you
Incorrect
make
on
a
that
shape
one, too.
claim
I disagree,
and a
but at least stick to that topic.
when you make a shape and size claim, right? That's geometry. That's a geometric claim, right? Because you made a shape and size claim. That's what geometry is. The study of shape and size claims. Geometry.
Like her?
So then we're going to go geometrically test the Earth. We did that.
Let him respond though.
What did it?
You tested geometrically, or did you test it with optics?
Yeah, well, we looked over vast distances with void of any type
Nice.
of
With
obstructions.
optics, didn't you? Gotcha.
Yeah, we don't see any obstruction. So the Earth does.
Gotcha. Tested it with
Okay,
optics.
fair enough. So then you would have to agree that the Earth, we don't see the Earth curving anywhere. We just know that it does.
No, yes, we do. Actually, we do.
We
I
don't
see
have
it
a
curve
problem
all
with
the time.
optics. You do. So why aren't you holding yourself?
So
to
okay, let me say this. At times you agree that the curvature of the Earth is MIA and you can't see it at all.
No, it's just obstructing. Not at all. You can't. You have to explain it away. You have to hand wave it away, and we understand that.
Wait, no. Whenever I see like way too far where there should be physical
Oh, you
obstruction of
don't see
Earth
far
curvature,
enough, though. How far?
you guys say that it's actually refraction.
Can I point something out?
It's called terrestrial refraction.
You don't see far enough to be on the flat
I'd just
Earth,
like
though.
to
You should
point
be
out
able to see
something.
forever.
No, we see plenty far.
Nope, you should see forever.
WITSIT, you claim that we cannot, that general relativity doesn't apply to the galaxy, the larger galaxy, or quantum mechanics, but you don't believe in the larger galaxy. So all that's left for you is to show that it doesn't apply to quantum mechanics.
Yeah, and everyone knows that. And my point was just that is the glue for your model right now. It doesn't work on anything but the local scale. Well, it was created.
It doesn't apply to quantum.
But
It was
everything is
created.
local according
quantum.
to
Show
you.
the fucking
Everything
equation.
would be local according to you.
Quantum has nothing to do with the shape of the Earth. None. Zero.
No, we were talking about how general relativity is wrong.
General relativity is not wrong.
Yes, it is.
Nope, most tested theory in the world.
It's so
It's been
tested that it's off by 95% of the substantive material occupation of the supposed universe. Huh?
Oh, wrong.
Where did that phrase even come from?
I said
It's not one of the most nonsense things you've said.
Well, I give you plenty of adjectives in here, so I
about
know
that.
you guys understand.
Because it's so wrong, they've had to invent dark matter that they can't even solve yet. That's
Look,
why.
you guys are not hearing
Stop
Slacker.
playing dumb.
We're trying to help Slacker. because it's
general
more
relativity says
powerful.
nothing about
talking
dark matter.
his objection to dark matter. I was talking about his weird ass phrasing.
But I'm describing it well. I'm giving you adjectives like substantive, material, occupation.
Everybody
so you
knows
fully
that they don't
understand
get
what
Why
they're
are you
saying.
using those when they're not?
So
That is what it says.
So to you, general relativity doesn't even exist on the local level, though. It
Right.
doesn't describe phenomena. It's ether.
Well, yeah, because they say space and time bend and warp, and so like what?
Space time, one word.
Okay.
Yeah, those
One
are
word,
concepts. They
space-time.
can't. Yeah, well, space and time are what make up
Space
space
time, one word, not two.
What makes up space time?
Space time is one word, it's not two.
But what makes up space time?
The four-dimensional thing.
Space
one
and
word.
time.
Space time, one word,
Yeah,
not
so
two.
they say space and time bend and warp.
Space time, one word.
They say that time
not two.
dilates. Do they say that space dilates, or is it time that dilates?
Both actually.
Oh, so space dilates also?
Time warps, time dilates.
Mhm.
Oh, which one is it? Y'all are saying different things here.
Well, they are.
I'm
See,
saying
because
ignore
it's a
whatever
difficult
the word
concept. I
is.
understand you don't get it. I mean, WITSIT doesn't get
Well,
it. We
you're
understand.
projecting. So, one guy said
No, sir,
one
you're
guy
wrong.
said that space warps, time dilates. The other one said that both of them dilate. Which one is it?
It is warps and dilates, but bending
No.
or dilating is essentially the same. It changes shape. Okay.
Time is the one that dilates.
Yes, time dilates.
Okay, they don't both dilate in the theory of relativity. Okay.
Yes, wait, just a minute, because you were asking very insistently on is relativity a law or a theory. Now, how would it ever become a law in your understanding of science?
Well, it'd actually have to at least be feasible on all scales, so it's thrown out right there. And then when we apply it to observation, it's off drastically. And actually, they say that 95% of the universe is dark matter.
But
Why did you keep?
none of
Why
all
did you
that
run
would
away
make
from
it a
the ether
law.
argument, Witsit?
I'm not running away from it.
Interfering, damn it! You had your turn. None of that would make it a law, though, would it, Whitson?
Well, it would at least potentially be viable, but no, because it's just theory and it has no independent manipulation of the
Now,
variable.
you do understand that the physical theory is. You do understand that physical theory can never become law. The theory of how something works is not what it is. It is the theory of how it works. Even if it's absolutely true, even if I know for absolutely sure that's how it works, it's never going to be a law.
Well, if you knew for absolutely so, yeah, it would be a law. That's what a law is.
That's not.
If you knew for absolute, dude, like natural law is absolute.
Apples and oranges.
Yes, but that's not
Yeah,
theory.
run away.
Theory and the law goes together.
WITSIT,
Oh, cool.
laws are WITSIT, laws are not theories, and theories that are confirmed don't become law.
They're not. No, the theory of relativity isn't confirmed. It's just a theory.
No, it's not just a theory. It's a
Yes, it is.
No, it's a scientific theory.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Space and time was not independently manipulated and varied to identify the cause relationship. Gravity is supposedly the effects of the bending and warping of space and time. That's your claim. That means that space and time, bending and warping, needs to be manipulated, changed, varied, and then identified to be the causal agent. In addition to that, just letting you skip past that and falsely tout a scientific theory when it's literally not because it hasn't been scientifically validated, even just assuming it's true, it doesn't work. It's off by 95% of the
Timmy's gonna mute me really quick. Hey, dipshit, why don't you shut
Yeah,
up?
because you're interrupting again, Tony.
Hey, Jem, Jem, can I talk to you, Jem? Or how long are we gonna let this guy come in here and do this shit to us?
As
And he
long
lies,
as,
but you want to sit here and let him do
you
it.
will be muted because you interrupt when all you had to do was wait your turn and make a point then. Why do you think it's acceptable for you to censor people because you want to? People have got to be silenced by Tony because he's decided that's the case. And nobody else can listen to them because Tony has decided for us who we can listen to and who we can't. Fuck off, Tony.
The best I would say from your side, like if I was on your side, guys, I would literally say, like, yeah, I mean, it does look like theory of relativity is wrong, but, you know, that's just how it works. We're trying to figure it out. But it is, I would admit that it does look like it's wrong and that we're trying to come up with different understandings where a more material occupation of quote-unquote space exists.
You're going against John Quantum Eraser's understanding, what he has said about scientific theories in his shows. A theory is not just a guess. It's a scientific theory. It's something that's been corroborated and has been validated.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. And you didn't do that because Quantum and I agree on this. You need to.
No, you're directly
You
contradicting.
need to manipulate and vary the independent variable.
And we've done that.
No, when did you manipulate and bend and warp space and time, Brenda?
Yeah, Blue Marble has done that.
He physically manipulated space and time?
Yes.
How?
By moving the weights.
Okay, so he moved weights, and that's how he was moving space and time?
Because the theory is it's the uneven distribution of mass. He moved the mass, therefore changing the shape of space-time.
Okay, but the space and the time was never actually independently verified as the causal agent. It was assumed.
Directly manipulate it by moving the weights.
By assuming that that's what it's doing.
If I put a paddle into the water and push it, I'm moving the water. That's how more direct can you get?
Yeah, well, to say that space and time are all that's there is an unfounded theory. It's called the general theory of relativity. You didn't validate that. And in fact, the math within your own construct shows you that there is a physicality in your current understanding to 95% of this empty space that was assumed previously, dude.
Dark matter is actually the fix for general relativity.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, so you're agreeing with me that dark matter supports general relativity.
It's an attempt to do so, but it's actually an unidentified term that is just a mathematical discrepancy. That's all it is.
Yeah, yes, people are looking.
Yeah, it's just an attempt, Brenda. They haven't solved it yet. It's still, it's not, dark matter is not a scientific theory yet.
Well, not yet, but it's
not even close
that way, and it's possible
Hypothesis.
Up.
It's not even defined yet.
It's a hypothesis.
It's not even defined. How's it
Yes,
a hypothesis?
It's a hypothesis. There's something
What's
out
the
there.
definition of dark matter then?
Well, they don't know. That's why.
Okay,
it's something
then it's not a hypothesis.
It's something that's causing the universe to increase exponentially.
Well, something isn't a sufficient hypothesis. The whole point of hypothesis, the whole point of hypothesis is that you propose a cause and effect relationship. You don't just say something is the cause of this effect.
No, something is the cause of the effect. That is correct.
Yeah, you can always say that, dude.
I think the bigger question, guys, is if CERN can't even come up with equations to reconcile this type of stuff, why even believe it right now? It's not even
the proposed solution.
Hypothesis.
Okay, you guys just gonna go down, beat a zealot, and do it.
What's it?
Hypothesis, you fuckhead.
Calm down, man. I'm just saying, like, we don't have to blind. Even if the Earth is a ball that spins around in space, and they go there, you still don't have to blindly believe every single theory they come up with, even whenever
Right,
it's
get it.
having
Your
problems.
their whole model is lynched
Yeah, that's
by
why
a
we don't believe
hypothesis.
the ether.
You have gone from one proven thing to something that is on the cutting edge, and you don't understand the difference.
The cutting edge, it's over 100 years old.
Dark matter is not. No, sorry.
Oh, yeah, because dark matter is just a response to this general relativity that's over 100 years old.
Correct, but okay.
Yeah, all right. So theory of relativity isn't on the cutting edge. It's old and archaic and outdated
Actually,
and wrong.
it's still on the cutting edge. Believe it or
It's
not.
wrong, though.
Oh, no, it's on the cutting edge because they just saw gravity waves, which would.
Flat Earth is wrong too, but it doesn't stop you now, does it?
Yeah, I was going to say, Flat Earth is wrong.
Wow, good one.
So WITSIT, the proposed particle that is composes dark matter is an axion. And when
The proposed particle you just Googled, so does that mean it's real?
they're looking for it,
Oh.
and so if they find it, that would be a confirmation of the hypothesis that axions are responsible for the phenomenon we call dark matter.
Well, no, that would be you just reifying that's what it is if you ever see a phenomena consistent with what you think should happen.
You form a hypothesis, and
always
then you
interrupt.
go out in the world and you conduct experiments to try to confirm your hypothesis.
Exactly. Like
Yeah,
at one
but
point in time,
but if you are to see the phenomena, right, one
things
time,
combusted.
dude,
But you know what? That was disproven.
if you see the phenomena one time, all right, that doesn't actually prove that exactly how you have characterized it is true, dude. That's lunacy.
But it's still a hypothesis, buddy. Just like phlogiston was a hypothesis until it was disproven.
Okay, so your hypothesis for dark matter is some made-up subatomic particle that has no evidence. It's just proposed. Cool story.
It might be wrong. You might be correct. That might be wrong. There are other people with other theories. They're all competing to explain the phenomenon we call dark matter. And who's going to win? We don't know who will.
What if no one ever wins because it's? Have you ever considered that maybe they're trying to fix something that's just wrong? Has that ever even crossed your mind?
Yes, there are people who think that. They have proposed what they call heavy gravity. They've proposed changes to general relativity to
Electric universe.
No, nobody thinks that because they aren't dumb.
There are people that think that.
Well, dumb people do, yes.
Well, they have degrees in your higher academia and they think the Earth's a ball. So according to your standards of comparison, they're very qualified.
People like Ken Wheeler. He's just,
Ken Wheeler's not the only electric universe. What are you talking about?
No one with like an accredited, scientifically peer-reviewed journal thinks that the electric universe exists, buddy. I hate to tell you.
Okay, that's a cool story. So none of them think general relativity is currently right. Do you agree that they all agree that general relativity in its current form is not accurate?
everybody acknowledges that there is something wrong with general relativity. It needs to be brought into quantum mechanics. Nobody has the solution.
Right, so if we all acknowledge that there's something wrong with it, that means the answer to my question is yes, that they've all acknowledged it isn't accurate.
No, we don't toss it out though because it still works really well for everything.
It doesn't work really well. It's off by 95%. 95%. Guys, you have to think about it, right? What it's doing is it's invoking a background medium. It's just that it's just space and time there. And that background medium of just space and time bend and warp. So that's the entire makeup of this proposed model of the universe. That's the entire makeup. That's most of it.
Yeah, but
they're off by 95%.
Look, every aspect of it was tested and found to be true.
Except for even having a mathematical equation on how to disperse this supposed medium adequately, because it's 95% off.
WITSIT. Thrown around with terminology like mathematical equations when you yourself present zero of them in any of your arguments is kind of disingenuous.
No, I'm saying you guys love your math. You pride yourself on your side's math, but your side's math can't even fix this problem yet.
Did you ever bring up any data to support yourself after Ranty trounced you?
Well, I guess you're scared, but no.
What's worse about the hypothesis of dark matter than ether? What's worst about it? Because they're both hypotheses, but one has a lot more work towards it.
Yeah, dark matter has none towards it, and ether has hundreds of years of successful scientists, including the very one that gave us the electrical grid we still use to this day, the fathers of field theory, right? Electrical field theory. They all agree that there was a background medium. They oftentimes called it the ether. They had different interpretations of exactly how all of the characteristics of the ether worked. It's just a generalized term of a background medium. it explains way more phenomena. We have literally in quantum physics, there's a belief that there's a particle that pops in and out of existence, but where it pops into existence from, that is nothing. That it comes from nothing, then goes back to nothing, then comes back from nothing, right? As opposed to there being a
different
background
dimension to that.
That's what. Yeah, it's just all there. It's all around you, and you can't see all of it. It's not all within the perceivable spectrum of vibration.
Virtual particles borrow energy from the.
This guy seems kind of genuinely curious, at least. Like, yeah, your eyes interpret vibration, and so there's actually a spectrum of vibration that your eyes can't perceive. But it doesn't mean it's just not there. And unfounded theory of the globe is that it's just not there.
Wow, that's true. We can't see certain colors.
Here's certain
colors. And they had to say this because
to the globe.
Well, they had to say there's no ether because if the Earth was spinning and revolving, whenever they shot lights perpendicularly, they would have saw a difference, like a phase shift consistent with those motions, but they didn't. So they either had to say, well, the Earth's not spinning and revolving, or there's no ether. So of course they said, well, there's no ether.
They already knew that the Earth was spinning, though, because
unfortunately the Earth is spinning. So that kind of kills your argument there.
Well, it isn't spinning though.
But they already knew that the Earth was spinning because of Foucault's pendulum back.
So every observation any humans ever made on their own is automatically wrong because of Foucault's pendulum with the same frame of reference. Every time we see that the sky resets for all recordable history over top of us, we're actually all wrong. The sky is still and the Earth is moving. Whenever we see this, guys, you have no evidence. You don't have enough evidence to make a preposterous claim.
Yeah, I do. Foucault's pendulum.
Foucault's pendulum from 1851 that was disputed by everybody at the time.
Yeah,
right?
because they didn't understand it like you. Only they were 100 and...
There's a Foucault's pendulum in 2021 at the university that I went to.
Yeah, it's also got an electronic device in it.
No, incorrect. Not all.
Yeah, almost all of them on display do.
Yeah, so what?
Like every other Foucault's pendulum,
Okay, well, it doesn't work just like it because it's got an electronic device.
All that device does is keep it going.
Keep it going, exactly.
What's the electronic device?
It doesn't move it at all. It just keeps it going.
What is the electronic device?
Are you saying it's not there?
What is the electronic
We're not playing.
device
We're not playing this game.
is there?
Are you saying
Yes, we
it's
are.
not there?
It's not
saying
game.
Are you saying
This
it
is
moves
you fucking making
I looked
shit
up
up.
on a museum, dude, where they say that it has a little device that keeps it
Fine.
moving.
What does the device do?
Again. Look it up
Keeps it
again.
moving.
What's the electronic device?
So wait, are you saying that the ones on display don't have devices?
What does the device do?
Electronic device, jackass.
Well, then
Support
what is
that.
it? Then I'm sorry, just be specific.
It's a motor, buddy. It keeps.
Motors.
You're not right.
Motors aren't electric.
Specifically,
problem?
which one?
Yeah, motors are electric.
Specifically,
Dude.
what is the
You're
device?
saying that this device biases the Foucault's pendulum?
Doesn't really matter, guys. I'm just saying.
Let
They
him,
say,
let him fail to answer the question, please.
What's this question?
Go ahead, Jem. You ask him. He might respond to you.
Specifically, which pendulum is being affected by this, and what specifically is the device?
Well, just oftentimes in the museums they have a little device that helps it keep going. I mean, it's just open information.
Right.
This doesn't actually falsify your claim anyway. I'm just saying when someone invokes one on display, well, it's not really going to work for us when we're talking about does it prove the Earth spins. I mean, you've added like
but it
additional
still
energy.
processes. Yeah, I mean, obviously something needs to keep it swinging, right? But so either somebody needs to set it swinging and then set it swinging again when it runs out of swing. Or,
right. Well, why would that happen if the Earth spins, bro?
Hold on. Or you need some sort of motor or something to keep it swinging, but it still processes, right?
Right, but we have to push this. Yeah, of course it does. But we have to push this pendulum, and then
You asked the question.
it
Yeah.
rests.
The rotation of the Earth does not cause the pendulum to be pendulous, swinging.
Right.
It
Yeah,
causes the plane of that swing
We
to
know.
process.
We know.
Okay, then don't say the stupid things that you say.
No, what I'm saying is
No.
just I want you guys to really think about your claim. So you have to
You
push.
think about what you just said. The rotation of the Earth does not cause it to swing.
I never
We
said
all
it did.
understand that. We all know that.
Okay, Kevin.
You're trying to make an argument point about the fact that it doesn't.
No,
And
my
it's
point.
invalid. It's
That wasn't my
meaningless.
argument point. That's why you shouldn't interrupt and assume it, man. My point is just to fully recap your point. You're pushing the pendulum.
You did say that.
And then it's going to come to a rest.
We don't push it. We pull it and let it swing.
Okay.
Like
By
gravity.
swinging it, we allow it to. But by swinging it, it puts it in its own inertial frame of reference.
You let it go. You don't push it.
So it's in the same frame of reference until you move it, which is on the Earth. Then once you move it, it's out of that frame of reference.
Yeah, you just put it into a swinging motion.
You don't understand your typical flip. You don't understand frame of reference.
You just
because here's the thing with it that doesn't make any sense. Whether it's swinging or standing still, you're saying that there's some kind of an ether wind that's making it deflect and change in the direction, right? Now, it makes perfect sense on the sphere Earth because you can just demonstrate this for yourself in your living room, right? If you swing something on a string and then you rotate what the thing on the string is attached to, if you rotate whether it's your hand or whatever you have it attached to, if you build a little hangman's frame or whatever, it will still swing in the direction that you started it. And so it makes sense why it would appear to rotate on a Earth that's turning. But in your case, you're saying it's ether wind, and that doesn't make any sense because if it's able to deflect it while it's swinging, it should also deflect it while it's standing still.
No, the ether drift is so light over top of the Earth that you're just going to be able to measure like very small amounts of movements that are affected by other
why would it deflect it when it's moving, but not deflect it when it's standing still? That doesn't make any sense.
Because it's not that strong, dude.
Well, hold on a second. But what does the strength that have anything to do with it? Why does it take less force to deflect it when it's swinging? What's the scientific
You're just picking up a
explanation?
change in the movement. You have the same problem as this explanation does. You have to introduce the movement.
No, what I just said, you can easily test it. You just take a yo-yo and swing it in one direction, and then you can rotate your wrist any which way, and the yo-yo will continue to swing in the direction that you started it, which is exactly what we're seeing on the Earth.
Okay, you don't always get the exact same reading with pendulums. You have to actually use a device typically when they're on display. They don't have an independent frame of reference. You just claim it does once you push it. You have to push it. It will stop on its own. The Earth spinning
But that has nothing to do with the rotation of the Earth, you idiot.
assumed cause of the precession.
It has nothing. The fact that if you don't keep it moving, if you don't keep it swinging, if you don't keep adding energy to keep it swinging, right? Because it has drag, aerodynamic drag that will slow it down, and friction through the string. That's the only reason why at these displays they have a device to keep it moving. But people have successfully set these things up. I mean, I can show you the video where some college students did it in a stairway. You don't need to have any device to keep it swinging to make the measurement, because if the weight is long enough, is heavy enough, and the string is long enough, it'll swing for quite a while on its own. Enough to make the measurement.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's motorized, in certain places to keep it swinging all day long so for demonstration purposes is irrelevant to the effect that's being observed. And the ether one can't explain it because you have no mechanism to explain why somehow swinging it allows it to detect this very sensitive ether wind when it doesn't get detected when it's just sitting there, in one place. It doesn't make any sense.
Because the momentum of the density of that object relative to the air is much stronger than the ether wind. But when you put it into motion to overcome the resistance of the air or the density difference, then you're going to see a slight variation in its movement because there's a slight movement within the ether field. It's over top of us. It's a drift.
So first of the ethers,
it goes the same direction, man.
Why does it stop at the equator? What's so special about the equator that stops the ether wind? And then why does it reverse? Why does it reverse after the equator?
Well, first of all, can you actually show me a pendulum observation at the South Pole?
Yes.
Let's see it.
What do you want? What do you want? A tape? You want a YouTube video or something?
I bet it's not real. You can't go do that.
Well,
yes, it is real. They published it. It's real.
Forget about the South Pole. What about just all the Foucault pendulums? Just what about all the Foucault pendulums that are like in Australia?
It's irrelevant.
And museums in Australia and New Zealand and
claim that the ether swirls, but Foucault's pendulum is all precise.
Well, it's intertwined, right? So the ether moves with the sun and the moon. The sun and the moon. Listen, guys.
Still talking. Thanks, WITSIT.
No problem.
Right, but the sun
in a circle. Then how is the ether swirling everywhere at the same time?
The sun and the moon move in a cycle with the rest of the sky. With the ether drift, the moon hovers over the top of the Earth, effectively.
But it doesn't move on the equator, which is directly under the sun.
During certain eclipses, we actually have the pendulum will reverse directions. It's called the Elias Effect. So it obviously has something to do with the sun and the moon. This makes sense because the equator is based on the movement of the sun over top of the Earth.
You don't know.
So I know
much
there's
more
like an electric nature
much
to
more
the.
honest for you to say you just don't know.
I said a long time ago, falsification is independent of replacement. This does not hands down 100% prove the Earth is spinning. Now you're begging me for a replacement. I'm giving you one, and it's more viable.
If it's because of the sun, which moves like 60 degrees in the sky. Hey, I was talking, please. It's because of the sun that move like 60 degrees in the sky from summer to winter. Why doesn't the proper pendulum changes?
Okay, so whenever the sun and the moon line up in the sky, or an eclipse happens, then we have this effect on the
Did you hear my
pendulum.
question?
I don't have to know all the answers of existence, dude. You guys don't understand. Falsification is independent of replacement. Falsification's
to you in the sky during winter, yet the focal pendulum is steady.
Okay, listen. Falsification is independent of replacement. You guys are effectively saying that the falsification isn't true until there's a replacement. That's pathetic.
No, we're not saying that. We're saying you had to provide an actual falsification. You cannot just go, nah.
Well, can you actually verify 100% fact that the Earth is spinning underneath that pendulum?
We can verify it's not the sun and the moon.
Falsify it. Go on.
Okay, well, we have something called the Elias Effect that doesn't really vibe with that because it goes the opposite direction.
It's fairly theoretical, and it does have a very specific time where it happens. So, nope, doesn't debunk anything.
And it's only observed once. No, it doesn't happen. It has not been duplicated.
Okay, so no, that's not true. It's been more than once. But some people have tried to duplicate it and find it. That's what they claim.
It has NASA. It has been observed more than once.
Yeah. So,
I take that back.
So then the question is just, well, how does that work, right? Like if it's picking up a precession based on a singular direction of movement, axial rotation east, then why would it ever go the opposite direction based on what the sun and the moon are doing?
Exactly.
It does not actually go the other direction. It slows down its precession a little bit, is what's observed.
It actually can change direction according to some of the claims. So.
No.
Anyway.
But the precession does have. If it rotates one way and then it rotates less that way, then it's changing direction. Right?
Blah blah.
In physics terms,
it can go the opposite way according to some of the claims. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that never happened.
Okay, well, either way, which yes, it literally did happen. You're gonna have to explain how's this work? If axial rotation causes a precession, why is it changing based on the optics of the sun and the moon? That would be a non sequitur. That would have nothing to do with it.
Only if you document that it actually does happen, and that still, only just says that something strange happens with alignments. It doesn't really say that the alignment that relies on the heliocentric model doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen.
It doesn't debunk anything. It just says that something strange happens with alignments.
Yeah, and I went and looked into the best theory they could come up with, and it invokes dark matter.
Excuse me.
It does not invoke dark matter. I'm very sure of that.
Yeah, it does. I'll go get the paper in a second. It's on Harvard's database.
There is a dark matter theory for why the focal pendulum goes the wrong way?
Yeah, it's just purely speculate. Yes, it is. Bro, you guys just made this up, dude.
Yeah, I think you made it up.
Okay, well,
I think you made up. I think you make up you make up 3/4 of your shit. Why
on
don't
the
you make
Harvard
up
database, right? They talk about the Elias effect and blah blah blah. Then at the end, they say some speculate that this has to do with. Yeah, I know about dark. That's what I said. I said that they're just speculating. Yeah, and then they invoke dark matter, dude. Jeez Louise.
No, I'm saying speculation. My God, you're pathetic, sir. You're taking a known scientific fact and saying that, because somebody observed this like twice and it's still unclear what's happening, this disproves everything.
No, what I'm saying is the best they've been able to come up with to try and explain it is it invokes dark matter. You guys said that wasn't true.
Of course you don't get it.
And you know
I don't give a shit about the stupid Elias effect. It does not disprove.
Oh, that's convenient.
The focal pendulums.
How does it not disprove it? If the cause of precession is axial rotation, why would it change in the heliocentric model based on the
I don't know.
optics of the sun?
The Elias effect is still controversial and not proven. So,
Okay. So you don't know
we've
that's
got
the honest
digest Pablo Dolan's gyroscope. How about that? You know, Foucault invented the gyroscopes, and people like you have a hard time understanding the pendulum movement.
Waffle.
Well, no, I understand that during eclipse they change movement, which is not consistent with
No,
assuming
incorrect.
it's because of the Earth's spin.
No, sorry.
Wow.
The Elias
Okay,
effect
well,
is.
that's the best you got. Cool.
Sorry for
Yeah, the
you.
best I got is you're talking shit again.
Okay, man. Well, the Earth, we don't ever feel it moving. We have no evidence of
Yes,
it
correct.
moving.
We do not feel movement. That's
We
correct.
see the sky moving though, and so we have to believe the sky is actually still with the Earth's moving. For me, I'm
No,
gonna
the
need some
Earth is moving.
empirical
Foucault
evidence for
proved
that
it with this
because you're
pendulum
asking
and
me to
then with the
believe.
gyroscope.
You're asking me to believe something antithetical to all observation.
That's a little interesting because in your understanding, in your I'm saying model, but forgive my meaning here.
Globers
Your
are getting
understanding, the
absolutely
lights in the
slaughtered.
skies do what?
We're
to
live here
pendulums?
on
Why
Are
didn't
You
they do that?
Smarter Than a Flat
Oh, I'm
Earther?
not claiming to know why. I just know that
Doesn't
that
like
just
any
shows
of
you
these
it's not just
globers are
because of axial
smarter than a
rotation
flat
that the
earther.
pendulum precesses. It has to do with that energy field it's within, in my opinion.
Wits, I want you to be really honest right now. If you look out a window and you see trees flying by, could it be you moving in a car or the trees flying by you?
Oh yeah, both postulations are viable for sure.
Awesome. Then why are you stuck on just the trees are moving and not you're moving with the car?
Well, no, I'm saying is like if I'm standing in my house and I look out and I see that the tree's moving, I'm gonna assume my house isn't moving, the tree is being affected because the wind's hitting it and now it's moving. So for me to think, well, actually, it just looks like the tree's moving, but my house is moving, I would need some empirical evidence for that. That's a better
So
analogy.
yeah, you don't feel movement in the car even though you're driving.
Oh,
So I don't know why
violin.
you're invoking a house.
That's not really analogous because, like, if you take the top off of a car, you will feel the movement. So
That's because you're feeling air
You're
resistance
feeling
and
the
drag.
breeze. You're
No,
feeling
you
the
don't need
air.
to hear what
yeah, but your model has no top on it. It's a convertible, effectively.
It's because the air is moving with us. Thank you very much.
Well, actually, I watched the wind go all different directions on the drop of a dime. So
That's because we have high and low pressures.
WITSIT just
yeah,
laying
they
off
go
proof
left and
that
right and back and
absolute
forth.
waste.
Yeah, but what's the predominant wind pattern
But
in
you know,
the world?
when you're driving in
All
a car
these
and the air is going the same
intellectuals,
speed as you in the
not
car, you can still
one
turn your AC
clue.
on and have cold wind blow in your face.
Not
So
a
I still don't
clue
see your point.
between them.
Yeah, but it'll immediately disperse into the available space around it, and you would still feel the movement of the air around it.
Don't get on the second.
You're not
Don't
refuting.
get on the second law of thermodynamics. You're already failing in general relativity.
Listen to these.
Dude, if you turned your air on in a convertible with the top down, the air would go into the area around it, obviously.
We're not driving with our top down, though. We're driving in a car with the air moving the same speed we are.
Oh, so that we have a top on it.
Ah, and then when you turn the
Well,
AC
that's
on,
not analogous to the Earth.
Yeah, there's a top. It's called gravity. We know about
Oh,
it.
so gravity is the convertible roof?
Yep.
Well, but we agree that some of the air gets out. So basically, our convertible roof has a hole in it.
Yep.
Yeah, sure. We're not an isolated system. Congratulations.
All right, so it's got a few holes in the roof.
Yep.
Yeah,
And-
we have gas escape from our atmosphere. This is correct.
So there's like holes in a gravity field?
Nope.
How's that work then?
Some air can get out.
Oh, you can figure
Some
it
air
out.
can get out.
I'm
Is it
not
because
gonna
the air
explain
is
it.
super strong?
No, the solar
Rain.
wind has a ton of energy, and it will hit the particles, and it will accelerate them to where they'll escape Earth's gravity.
Don't get too technical.
So
Let me
it
barely
has to do
understand
with
1
the
plus 1
strength
equals
of the
2.
part. That's what I said. It has to do with the particle, dude. It has to do with the strength of the gas particle, like the velocity of the gas particle.
Not a pressure.
Yeah, the solar wind is atomic particles that are coming off the sun.
That's a cool story, man. Yeah, the sun
It is
heats
a
up
cool
the air.
story.
That's true.
Yeah.
The sun heats up the air, but yeah, you don't have to get all carried away with the pseudoscience, dude. Let's be real. But yeah.
Not
Well,
pseudoscience, you
what
idiot.
creates the aurora
It's in the,
borealis on the flat Earth?
Well, we don't actually know exactly what North Pole is. I would say that there's an energy field that emanates from that area, and then based on like you can take a magnet. to
Some
different-
people see.
Oh, you
Oh
full of
my
shit.
gosh!
Yeah,
you
but
can
some
take a
people see
magnet
it
to
as far.
different-
Some people
Guys,
see
can I
it
just
in
can I
northern.
finish?
Some people
No,
see
you
it in
can't
the
finish this
northern
one because you
states.
start off with a bunch of shit.
If you take a magnet next to certain neon gases and tubes, right, it will actually make them illuminate in that neon color because of the interaction with the magnetic field. So all of our compasses face north, and we know that it can actually excite certain gases into a neon fluorescent view. So yeah, I think that it's interesting that the northern lights aren't central to the supposed central of the Earth, and for me, I think that that's because we don't know the true center of the Earth.
Oh, that was a bunch of shit.
Okay,
Northern
it's
Lights
just
have
a
nothing to do with
coincidence the
Boreal
northern
stuff.
lights don't line up with the north. Yeah, it's just a coincidence.
They line up with the magnetic North Pole. That's correct. We understand.
More honesty here, WITSIT. What do you think gravity is if it's not downward acceleration?
Well, downward acceleration is the effect. Gravity claims to be the cause, but quote-unquote gravity is just incoherent dielectric. In my opinion.
Now, with the northern lights in heliocentric model.
Well, incoherent means that it's not coherent, right? So like a strong magnet is coherent because all of the particles, let's just say, are moving the same way, right? Like the molecules have the same direction of movement, and so it strengthens the field, it's coherent. But if they're going different ways and it's all discombobulated, that's incoherent, but it's still technically magnetic. Dielectric is effectively another word for electrostatic, which rubber, glass, anything, wood, it still can transfer electrostatic and have resting electrostatic potential. So incoherent, dielectric, or electrostatic acceleration. So it's just downward acceleration.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a bunch of shit.
Okay, cool.
How does it accelerate?
Why don't magnetic things fall faster than non-magnetic materials?
Because it's going down to a neutrally charged plane.
You said it was magnetic though, so if magnets attract, then magnets should fall faster than non-magnetic materials.
Incoherent magnets are very, very weak, and actually their strength is disproportionate to the increase
Still should fall faster than a magnetic field.
The increase in the size of the magnet actually makes the strength weaker when it's incoherent, because you discombobulate the molecules
you
even
don't
more.
Discombobulate? Are you? Oh man.
Are you not listening, man? Like,
I'm not listening. No, I'm not listening
increase
because
in
you're
the
talking
compilation, an increase in the compilation of incoherent mass has a disproportionate relationship with its strength of pull.
I understand what you're saying. What I want you to tell me is, what is my weight in Gauss or volts or whatever your unit of measure is for this supposed dielectric discombobulation field? Because we measure things in kilograms and weight down.
Yeah, right now we use weight equals mg, right? So mass is the quantification of matter, assuming the center of mass and gravity, effectively. So mass times gravity, right? That's what we define weight as. Weight's really just acceleration, equalization, right? Everything seeks its equilibrium, so pressure mediation. So I would just say pressure mediating. We have a density relationship with the air around us, and we have what we call weight. It's not because like gravity's pulling us down. Yeah.
Cool. So what's my weight in Gauss then?
Can I?
It's obvious.
Just a second here.
No, it's not that.
Because you're right. You're right. The weight is equal mass times mg. Mg equals mg, right? But in your understanding, clearly that g, which is essentially just the observed acceleration, is caused by your dielectric magnet. So it would just be, G would just be magnet something that you say it.
Well, yeah, because you're right in a sense. Yeah, like little g is not like anything other than the quantification of downward acceleration. That's all little g is. It's just like quantifying the effect of things falling down. So I can use little g just as well as you can. There's no distinction when it comes to the mathematics. Literally, it's just an agreed upon average of downward acceleration.
Then your little g would be causing the gradient of the atmosphere, wouldn't it?
Well, I think that it could play a role. Yeah, the closer you are to the dielectric plane, it would have an effect for sure. There's an electrostatic resonance above the Earth. I've been saying that for 5 years.
Dielectric plane? You have no idea what you're talking about.
You don't know what a dielectric plane is? How about you Google it?
How about you figure out what dielectric does to you?
Well, the military document, whenever they were working on towers, right, they assumed the Earth to be a dielectric plane. I'm sure the military just makes up terms, huh?
Again, you have no way of reconciling the fact that we weigh things here on Earth, and that's due to gravity. And
no, it's not, dude. We just now said that weight equals mass times gravity, dude.
You have no way of
weight equals mass times acceleration. Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Gravity is something other than gravity.
So
no other metric, no other way of
W equals mg. G is just the quantification of downward acceleration. We're discussing the cause of downward acceleration. So the quantification of little g is a non sequitur.
If there's a direct correlation with G and electricity or magnetism, then you can convert weight to Gauss or weight to volts. You can't.
Okay, have you ever looked at the difference between the electrostatic equation and the gravitational equation? I can send it to you if you'd like.
Please,
okay, I'll get it for you in a second.
Send it to me along with the conversion of my weight, which is 189 pounds.
You'll just get the equation and you'll learn how to do it.
No,
seriously, I will.
I hear that people protest about this acceleration, but we're rather sure that we weigh pretty much the same on airplanes as on the ground, right? So you know the field would have to be pretty much the same all the way up, right?
Oh yeah, it's an incoherent dielectric acceleration. That means it's very, very weak, and the Earth is so big, it's incoherent matter. It's huge, dude. So it's super weak. That's why balloons float away. That's why butterflies fly away. That's why bees that aren't aerodynamic can resonate.
The point here, but the point here is if your G is the G, you know, if your theory is right, then it would have to have me weigh the same on airplanes as on the ground. So the field is going to be pretty much the same, you know, within at least airplane altitude.
How about this? Do you agree electrostatics is stronger than gravity?
They, as a force, is a stronger force, yes.
They're like significantly stronger, right?
As a force, it is a stronger force, yes.
Yeah, it's like 10 to 39th power stronger on the small scale. And like if we look at a bee, they're not aerodynamic, right? They have these little fat bodies and these baby thin wings. They're not aerodynamic, but they actually have a resonance. They have a resonance that helps them fly. They're actually able to go through crosswinds up to 50 miles an hour unaffected.
That's just stupid. You don't be saying that anymore.
WITSIT, hold on before we go on. WITSIT, can I?
Of course I have.
This downward bias. I mean, the gases are not biased downwards, are they? They kind of spread in all directions. No?
Yeah, for sure.
No.
But there's a density. There's basically density layers.
Just like everything else is biased
downward.
downward.
Because we have butterflies.
If you have a G in your understanding, then you have a gradient caused by that G.
No. Well, I think that there's many variables inside the gradient, right? Like we have density layers, so the density of the gas relative to the air around it will eventually layer out. Although we do have elastic collisions constantly going on, which of course requires containment for there to even be pressure. Then we have temperature variance. We have the induction of heat is going to affect.
All of that is interesting, but
at the surface.
We have the gas constantly remaining at the surface level. So if you have a vacuum chamber, quote unquote, and then you put in like a tube of gas to the center, as long as you're introducing gas to the system, you'll have a higher concentration at the surface. We have more gas made at the surface, right, via like vegetation and animal life.
Hang on.
Long story short, though, if you have a G in your, can I finish that point? If you have a G in your formulation, then that would directly cause a gradient of the atmosphere, wouldn't it?
No, because the electrostatics is way weaker than the elastic collision velocity of gas. Like gas is way stronger than electrostatics, which is way stronger than gravity.
You're good with numbers, so we can all agree that G would have to be about 9.8 meters per second squared, and we know that the gases move at I'm finishing this. Gases move at about 300 to 400 meters per second in you know, at 20 degrees Celsius, 14.7 psi. So the change would always be that 9.8 from the 400, right?
Well, it's an agreed upon average 9.8 meters per second squared, and that's when things weigh more than the air, because when I drop something in the water, it doesn't always do that, or it slows down, because it's all based on the density that it's in. And the pressure mediation relative to the density is going to be much stronger than electrostatics.
Yeah, we understand buoyancy.
Yeah, buoyancy is a principle that long predates the quantification.
Buoyancy, we understand buoyancy. It's how why boats float. We understand this.
Okay, yeah, and it's much
been
stronger
used for a
than
long time.
My point is that it's much stronger than quote-unquote gravity, and electrostatics is much stronger than quote-unquote gravity, but like the buoyant force, for example, we call it that. It's a principle, it's an effect, right? It's way stronger than electrostatics.
Wait, so if you
gas
agree
is definitely stronger.
No, but
Wait,
what,
so if
hold
you
on,
agree
Sword. Let me just ask a couple of questions, because I've just been listening, so I just want to clear. I just want to understand. So this electrostatics, you're saying it's around, it's in everything and everything. It's in everything or on everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like a molecule of gas around that.
Yeah, like gas is also electrostatic, but like its natural like electrostatics is way weaker than its velocity.
No, I don't mean that. I just mean I'm trying to. Let's just take one molecule in a vacuum. So the electrostatics is where around that one molecule.
Yeah, but if you want to get real particular, right? Like, can you actually identify the subatomic scale of different gases? Like, can you actually physically isolate that?
No, I'm just trying to understand how, so I can visualize this electrostatic. So,
say there was a material molecule, then yeah, there'd be electrostatic resonance within it.
So does it make it pull or push? Is what I'm asking.
Well, gases are moving so much faster, it doesn't do either, but effectively it would be attraction, right? Like, because everything above the Earth is positive. The Earth's typically neutral, but it'll build up a negative charge. That's why we have lightning. So, like, it'll kind of affect it, but, like, gas is way stronger than that. So you still need a container. You know, that's why they just threw electrostatics out, because it just refutes gravity so handily. It's funny.
Oh,
It does not refute gravity.
Hold on, Patreon, hold on.
No, it does on the large scale, dude.
Hold
No,
on
sorry,
a
it does
second,
not.
please. Hold on. So, WITSIT. So
Utter
say the
nonsense.
Earth, just the Earth itself, is, let's say there's, the Earth itself, is that the entire body of the Earth? Is that the is all of that pulling things towards it, is what I'm asking. So the electric statics.
I mean, if you wanted to try to say it like that, but I hate to say it like that because it's so damn near negligible. It needs to really be explained properly. The Earth's dielectric plane, typically neutral, sometimes builds up negative charge. So things positive will seek its equilibrium to negatives while we have lightning, but it's very, very, very weak.
No,
but
it's
yes,
not. That's
yes,
not why we
it's
have lightning.
incoherence matter, right? And everything's
Blah, blah, blah,
electrostatic,
blah,
but it's just
blah.
so
Just
big that it's
go on
weak.
with this bollocks until
Okay,
I'm
guys,
stopped.
we get it. You don't want to know what the Earth really is. It's not my problem.
You don't know nothing. Tell us. You don't know
Degree
anything.
is 9.8 meters per second squared on average. So it's roughly going to be about that, isn't it?
That's just agreed upon average. Sometimes it changes. But my point was with the bees. Why y'all scared of the bees? Because I had a point. The point with the bees was, well, look, that proved right there electrostatics is way stronger than gravity because that thing's not aerodynamic. So based on gravity, it should fall down, right? But it doesn't because of the resonance. The electrostatic resonance allows it to fly.
No, it works its ass off to get in the air. That's what.
No, they go through crosswinds 50 miles per hour unaffected.
So what? No, they do not. They're affected by crosswinds.
Dude, you need to go look at it. It's documented.
Oh, bullshit.
Dude, trust me, I think it sounds crazy too,
I don't
man.
trust
It's
you
a
for
wild
shit,
thing.
man. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Okay,
There's
well,
no
calm
understanding
down.
here.
Just
I'm
go
trying
look
to
at it.
understand, WITSIT. Say attraction. So, tell me, is it a pull or a push with these things? Is it pulling the things to the Earth?
There's actually no pull and no push.
What's causing this acceleration?
Uneven distribution of mass distorts space and time, which causes things to.
I'm trying to understand the because I want to know how I can manipulate it as an independent variable, if it's possible.
By manipulating the masses.
Yeah, like you could, like with the bee, right? Okay, with spiders that do this also, it's ballooning, spider ballooning. Like they put them in a certain area and they introduce different frequencies to them to see how it affected them. So you can manipulate electrostatics and show it affects directionality, right? And electrostatics is way stronger than gravity even claims to be. The reason that this can't, listen, guys, can I just say this part, please? I've been trying to say it for 5 minutes. The reason electrostatic.
Because
Guys,
the
listen.
electrostatic balance is maintained.
Yeah, but the
what
reason
you're
that
proposing is that there's a bigger strength between a charged particle and an opposite charged particle. What there isn't, which you're trying to mislead everybody about, is there is a force between neutral molecules of everyday matter.
Okay, electrostatics is way stronger than gravity. Now, the reason that, can I make my point, please?
Electrostatically charged is not the way things
I want to make a
exist.
point afterwards. Let him make his
Electrostatically
point.
charged is not a base energy level. Electrostatic is you have to put energy into things.
Yeah,
for them
but you
to
have
be
resting
electrostatically
electrostatic
charged. This is
potential.
not the natural state of matter.
You have resting
Your
electrostatic
gravity
potential,
is
dude.
stronger
You're wrong.
than the natural state of matter. There are no electrostatic forces present in neutral matter.
You have resting
Between a molecule
electrostatic
and a
potential.
molecule, there is no electrostatic difference.
Okay,
It's not so much
okay, we
difference
hear you. Keep saying it over and over. I bet it'll make it right. If you
Another
keep on saying it
molecule.
over and over.
There
You
is
keep
no.
saying it over and over, Chemo.
Okay, so can I make my point? So
No,
for one,
you
I'll
are
send
not
you the
making
paper.
any
I'll send you the
point.
paper that shows that there's a.
Hang on. Let WITSIT speak, please.
Pure bullshit, Jem. It's
I know, but we still have to allow him to say it, okay? Don't.
Bizarro, you can't just funny mute somebody by excluding them out of the conversation by over-talking them
I
constantly.
would
You have
wipe
to at
him
least
off my
contribute
shoe
something
if
new
he
to the
was dog
conversation.
Oh my God, here we go. We're gonna
If you're going to funny mute
calm
people,
down.
then somebody else is just
now
going
we're
to
gonna
funny
have
mute.
a word salad contest.
Guys, I do want to hear what you've got to say, Bizarre, but please let him say what he's got to say first, please.
Yeah, I'm saying there is something called like a resting electrostatic potential, and the reason that this wouldn't work like outside of Earth is because it wouldn't be strong enough to pull these major bodies of masses around one another. So what they say is, well, yeah, on the very small scale, on the local scale, electrostatics is stronger. But when you get way further away from the Earth and there's way bigger masses, on the bigger scale, gravity takes over. That's actually the official stance. That's my
Wait,
point.
so you're saying are you just saying they're like begging their question, or do you mean gravity's a thing?
No. Like that's my whole point is that they had to make up with what we do know exists, electrostatics. That won't explain the planetary movement in their supposed model. So they had to hijack it, change the equation a little bit, and say it was different on the bigger scale. So flat earthers are really skeptical to go down this road, but for me, I look at it like it's a lethal blow to the globe if it's actually understood, because they just literally basically assert that it's just different on the bigger scale, and gravity takes over.
Right, let Bizarre have a response at least to that, please, Chemo, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to do is propose that an energized molecule of matter, i.e., the electrons have been parted from it, is the normal way things are that hold planets together, that hold things in orbit around other things. When the problem is there is no electrostatic charge difference between a neutral atom or molecule of matter. You have to input energy to produce the charge state that then has the differential to cause attraction. Not including the fact that charges have two states, positive and negative, and this is not observed with gravity. The idea that this can replace gravity is just total bollocks, because there is no polarity observed, and you have to put energy into mass to get the attractive force that he's talking about.
Yeah, because it has to build up and be much stronger, but there's a resting resonance. That's why every material can transfer. You interrupt every time.
That is a nonsense term. You've just bullshitted up.
Just Google electrostatic resting potential.
It's zero. Electrostatic resting potential is zero. There is no attraction. There's no force.
Does it have a resting potential?
That's why it's called resting. There is no force imparted.
Right, but it has a resting potential. So, like I was saying before you interrupted me, this is what
you are trying to.
Okay, this is over your guys' heads.
I've
been in for a long time, dude. I'm getting out of here. I love you guys, but I'm pretty worked. What's up?
You sound tired, Wizard Man, but
The resting potential means that the energy is there if the right conditions are met, even though it looks like it's inert or not doing anything. So that potential is still there under the right conditions. It's just not manifest
some
yet.
kind of evidence to back up the fact that you can have this without energy input. Because
You lost me at the bee thing, man.
Yeah, the bees are awesome. Look into the bees. Look into spider ballooning. Look into lightning. Lightning's positive. There's positive energy up above you. When the Earth has negative charge, you get lightning. Because it's
Do other insects use this or just bees?
Bees, beetles, and spiders.
Well, you're not making the connection, so let's spell it out, make it a bit more
Why
plain.
only bees?
The bees vibrate, and it allows them to levitate. That implies that there's a medium that they are vibrating and levitating in sync with to allow the levitation. They have a cavity in their body that vibrates and lets them levitate.
Yeah, that's gibberish. That's
Wouldn't
gibberish.
we see other insects using this principle, though?
Yeah,
Wouldn't we
beetles
see
use
this
it.
in other things?
They're not all. They can't all vibrate at the right vibrational pattern to create a resonance.
To fly.
Yeah,
Can
like
we-
spider
can we use
ballooning.
this
Have you heard of it?
Can we use this vibration to levitate, since we know the frequency? that
We
they
in theory could. I think that's actually what they call UFOs.
Can I make a point here?
Oh,
please?
fuck me. I knew UFOs would get involved here somehow.
You say they're not real? I've seen 7 in one day.
Seriously. Yeah, oh my
Brenda?
gosh. Why are you such a hater, man?
There's a bee in front of me right now.
It's like you want his answers just so you can share. It's like, why pretend that you care for the answer?
And that's why
That's
bees sting you,
humorous,
by the
that's
way,
why.
guys. When you get real nervous, right? You send out this frequency, and it affects their flight ability, and so they're like defensive because they work off vibration.
WITSIT, I Googled, I would like to say something, please. I Googled electrostatic resting potential, and the only hits I got were having to do with the membranes in neurons. I got nothing about anything else. Do you have a better source?
Do you agree that it says that there is a resting potential?
That's in neurons. I want the actual source that you're using. You're not claiming that about neurons.
Right. Okay, so this is where you're gonna spiral big time. Okay,
No,
but
I'm not spiraling. I'm
I'll give you the answer if you'd like to not interrupt me. But you will spiral, and you probably will interrupt me because
WITSIT, that's the second time you
Don,
don't.
Don, come on.
It goes
I'm
both
just being
ways.
honest.
No,
Finish,
if you're gonna be nice, you're gonna be nice.
Finish.
Okay, well here you go.
God, how does
So
that help, Don?
right, it's just the way that you're understanding the phenomena. You're assuming the characteristics of an electron, how they work, and you're looking at what they do. Right, that's what the other guy explained to you guys. He's correct, but actually, the electron is not this physical little particle that's moving around. It's actually a gap in a dielectric field of induction. Right, so in that understanding, which is where the incoherent dielectric acceleration lies within that understanding, well, then there's just an energy field there, right? And whenever it isn't in motion, it just has a resting potential. That's why when you come and introduce new electrostatic energy to it, it will transfer it, whether it be wood, glass, rubber, or whatever.
So you don't have a link then.
What a bunch of shit.
You're right. I don't have a 2021 leak saying that the electron is actually just the terminal end of one unit line of dielectric induction.
You said that if we Googled electrostatic resting potential, we would understand, and I did that, and all I got was physiology of neurons and the brain.
I'll have to go look in my library to see the books I have. Yeah, it's hard to find some of the electric field theory fatherheads nowadays. Brenda?
So what does electromagnetism have to do with gravity, though?
Whoa, electrostatics.
Yes, that's what I said. What does electromagnetism have to do with gravity?
You mean electrostatics?
That's what I said. That's what I said.
Based off of your answer, you talked about a gap in the dielectric field. Is the dielectric field the ether all around us? And are you calling basically the electron and the proton a gap in the ether? And are you saying that gravity is come from the space all around us, the ether? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, somewhat, right? Like the okay, well, there's a movement within the ether field, and it's like a dotted line, basically, when it's just like little spurts of energy moving around, and the gap in between it would be what people call the electron, because you can isolate that phenomena, right? They just call it electron. So yeah, that would be within the ultimate ether. It would just be like gaps within the ether would still be in the gap, right? But like you're quantifying the movement in the ether and then the gaps within that movement field. If that makes sense.
I don't suppose you have any proof of this, do you?
Well, this is just what the electrical field theory fatherhead said. Yeah, I stick with them because they.
So I mean, no, you don't have any like scientific proof of this, right?
Well, there's more scientific proof of this. Yeah.
This is the framework, the story that they tell themselves to make sense of what they're viewing. So it would be like asking for a cup of gravity. We're not going to get it. We're probably not going to get a cup of ether either, but they're willing to go with this framework because I guess they see that it makes sense.
Yeah, it's more viable.
That's what WITSIT is saying, Lemon. And so, WITSIT, what are electrostatics? What is that?
It's okay. I've already explained it, right? So everything is inherently electrostatic or dielectric. But people don't understand that there's like
right?
Dude, there's a resting electrostatic potential or charge within everything, like a charge potential.
No, there is
not. There is a resting electrostatic charge potential. Okay, can rubber transfer electrostatics?
What does that mean?
What about glass? What about wood? Yes. Everything in the world can.
Electric charges, right?
No,
those are
everything cannot.
Name one material that can't.
They are free electrons, right, WITSIT?
No, electrons is the terminal end of one unit line of dielectric induction. It's a gap in a field.
That's what static electricity
You're talking static electricity. That's correct, Gold. So he's talking static electricity.
So he's saying that electricity is not this thing that you put in a jar and collect. It's more an activity of a field. So there's nothing to collect for electrodynamics changes in the electrical field. It's electrostatic. It's the same electricity that's always there. It's just like standing electricity that's always there.
Women gets it.
What conditions could we change to make a bee not fly?
You could hit them with different. I actually wanted to try this out. It's pretty difficult. You have to get the device that's like smaller than their body, so it doesn't affect their weight distribution too much, because you can mess them up, and you have to monitor their flight path. But they fly so crazy, like you have to get a good area to do it, and then you have to introduce like different frequencies to see how it affected their flight.
So WITSIT, I'm still not clear on what you think electrostatics are. I think electrostatics are just free electrons that are at the surface of a material that give it a positive charge.
Okay, yeah, and they're effectively the same thing when it comes to the phenomena, except you identify it as a little subatomic material ball, until it gets into a certain state, then it's not a ball anymore.
Well, it's
But
not
actually,
it's not interpreted as a ball. It's measured as a ball. We know the diameter.
no, it's not. Sometimes it's not even called a ball. They admit that it changes. Yeah.
That's not true. We know we have the diameter of electrons and their mass.
Yeah, and based on certain interactions, it changes within your pseudoscience. But who cares? Doesn't matter.
No, actually,
You didn't measure it being a ball.
Yes, people have measured it.
Oh, how'd they do that?
Actually, I don't know the exact procedure, but they have.
Exactly. I do. I know the procedure. You want me to tell you?
Tell us.
Okay, so the best thing that we have to isolate supposed electrons is the electron microscope. So the way that this works, whenever you have organic matter, you actually coat it with net.
It's a super collider. Electrons are measured with a super collider. That's a better better microscope.
Okay,
well, you were saying?
Yeah, the electron microscope, what you do is you take organic matter, you coat it with nano-sized particles of gold, and then you're just like detecting the reflections of light, and you're saying you're isolating electrons. That's what actually happens with an electron microscope.
The electron microscope doesn't use light. It actually uses electrons instead of light. That's like saying that a light-based microscope is used to measure light. It's not.
They measure reflections.
It's used to measure the object you're looking at. They're just using lights to bounce off of it. Electron microscope is only using electrons to bounce off of the object because electrons are smaller than the photons.
Well, the thing is, we don't have electron pebbles. I think that's what they reason and that they guess is happening because light that we see that's visible has a certain wavelength, so we're dealing with wavelengths of energy that are much lower than what we normally see. But
the point is, that's not how you observe electrons. You use a collider to observe electrons.
Oh, so they've isolated the physical particle of the electron?
He's correct.
You need something that has a higher energy level, which has smaller wavelengths to be able to see something smaller than itself.
Okay, and they physically
your
manipulate
mic is
and vary
off the
this
scale. You need to try and turn it down a bit. We've got a lot of background noise as well, and you're very, very gained.
They're just isolating certain phenomena in a field and colliding them, man.
I think what they're doing is like with the water in an ocean, the ether all around us is a similar thing of water.
No.
You direct two jets together and you're going to get pebble drops that are going to splash and collide out of that collision. That's what you're doing with the ether in these colliders. You're just smashing the ether together, and every time you get like a pebble or something that comes out of there, you're calling it a proton, but really it's the same stuff, just in a different interaction.
All right, so let me ask you another question. So, WITSIT.
And WITSIT agrees with you,
Hold
of
on
course.
a second. Goodness sakes. So WITSIT, in this Cavendish experiment, if there's an attraction, all variables are counted for example, we see it move. Is that down to the mass attracting mass, or is that down to electrostatics pulling the balls together?
Well, yeah, if you put in like a vacuum, which I don't think that anyone's even actually done that.
No one's ever done this before. Why do people just keep interrupting like that? So WITSIT. Got my guy BioDual. We're working together. Who's doing
chemo? That's why.
Who's talking? So me and my guy BioDual are conducting first ever vacuum Cavendish in a vacuum. Gonna do it live. He's bought the vacuum. He's bought the cameras. He's bought all the bits and the bobs that he needs. So what I'm asking you is that if this moves, okay, what's the cause? Are we going to say it's the mass, or are you going to say the electrostatics is pulling this together?
Yeah, I mean, see, my honest response is that if you get a vacuum, you still have the background there. Like, you didn't isolate the background. The electrostatics is basically a relationship with the background. Like, everything and every matter has its resting the background medium. So like it's in the vacuum still. So you didn't isolate the electrostatics, so it would be the cause if anything was. Yeah, because it's 10 to the 39th power stronger than gravity.
If there's
claims
a vacuum though, WITSIT, there's no medium.
Yeah, there's a background medium. That's why light can go through a vacuum, sound waves go through a vacuum, because there's still a medium there.
Brenda, hold on a second, because I'm still trying to follow up. The WITSIT is because we're going to do this experiment for the first time. So if we get the attraction, are you saying we're demonstrating Well,
yeah, that would be the most that you could. Well, like you definitely can't claim something outside of electrostatics because it's so much stronger than. Yeah, like you'd have to actually account for the variable electrostatics to claim a force much smaller than that.
And just my last question, last point, just because I don't want to drill you on it, but if it is electrostatics, how are we going to be able to manipulate and prove for sure 100% that it's electrostatics causing the movement, the pulling, or whatever you want to call it, the attraction? How are we going to show that without any doubt?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, so you could just affect the electrostatic resonance of the objects. I'd have to think about how you could do that in a vacuum.
How do you affect
but yeah, that's a good idea because it definitely would affect it.
Got a vacuum. We're going to be doing it. He's bought it.
No, I'm saying there's certain mechanisms, right? Devices that you can use.
That would explain the megaliths.
Yeah, that's how they move the megaliths.
So, do you see the photograph of the Cavendish being done in a vacuum chemo?
Sorry, that's the picture. We've never seen or observed the movement.
In a vacuum. Yeah, it's in a vacuum.
Observed, Brenda, the movement.
Yes, it is. You can see it. It's a photograph.
A photograph, yeah.
Oh
Where's
my
the
gosh.
observation?
See it. It's a photograph.
Well, don't you think it's more efficient for us to do it actually in the video and document it?
Of course. We're doing it. Anyway, we're going to be the first people that do this.
Who's we?
What I'm asking, WITSIT, because there's a lot on the line here. If there's movement in the vacuum, and you're saying it's going to be the electrostatics, how are we going to be able to manipulate? Because, WITSIT, we've got to be honest now, right? Because if, say, for example, they're following the scientific method, I don't know if you adhere to that or not, but if, say, for example, that's what we're telling people they should follow, and we've got a variable, the predicted cause, they manipulate the predicted cause, then what? Now what? Where do they go? Where does anyone go from there, WITSIT?
Yeah, I'm saying if you were to introduce electrostatics to it and then get some more movement or change in movement, that would verify that directionality is an effect of that electrostatics that's already in there because you've manipulated it. I mean, we can do this many different ways already, so that is what would happen. You would get some movement based on how much electrostatic voltage there was.
Well, let's take this slowly. We're thinking in unauthorized ways, and we're going to be afraid that we're going to, go too crazy with some of this stuff. But Tesla did say that light itself is like a sound wave in the ether. So I think we need to think about this in a different way, where we're talking about, all of this stuff separated. Maybe we could finally have a unified theory if we go with the ether instead of 500 different particles smashed together like a water hose or whatever.
Yeah, and that ether is, of course, in the vacuum. I mean, you can't get rid of it.
Light is not sound, Lemon.
No, he said it behaves like it's basically a sound wave in the ether.
No, that's not how light behaves.
Well, you know more than Nikola Tesla. Yeah, we get it.
And you,
you can read a book from beginning to end and then recite it perfectly, huh,
Let's
Brenda?
listen to each other. It's going to take some time. It's going to be frustrating. Let's listen to each other. Brenda, you were saying?
I was saying that I do know more than Nikola Tesla because I have an education in physics that surpasses his because he was just a con artist.
Wow.
Well, he's pretty smart. I mean, the thing is, it's a sound wave in that there's a medium there, the ether, and these waves are pushing against each other, rarefracting and, condensing in a medium like a sound wave. It's like light is, for all intents and purposes,
Wait, did Brenda just call Nikola Tesla a con artist?
Yes.
Were you referring to Nikola Tesla?
Yes, he's a con artist.
Citation needed.
He was a con artist.
Citation needed.
How did he
What
con?
are you talking about?
Let's clarify this. Brenda, how did he con?
That was his whole thing. He stole inventions from other people and then fawned them off as his own. Most of
Let's get specific.
Like the wiring for AC electric motors was not his. He stole that.
From who?
I forget the name of the person.
That's not true. So what actually happened was he created the AC generator, and then Charles Proto Steinmetz perfected it. So try again.
Well, I think he gets a bit of a bad rap because of the whole pigeon thing, but it looked like he was ready to think about this stuff in new terms. His theoretical mind was brilliant, and that's why I tend to go with theoretical stuff as opposed to the practical application, because sometimes we get stuck in myopic and very rigid in our view of things, and we got to get a bit more theoretical.
Hey, Brenda, are you sure you're not mixing up Tesla with Edison?
Right.
He's the one who stole.
Yeah, because Tesla shit on it.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Food should be your medicine.
Hey.
Okay, so guys, this is
I started dropping elements that should have been different ever since.
We're going to have an experiment shortly, the next month or so, where they've never seen Cavendish in a vacuum. So we need to know what the cause is if it moves. And we can't just make things up, can we? Otherwise, we're not following the scientific method. What's the predicted cause? What do you predict now, WITSIT now? You know, percent, what do you predict now as the predicted cause to this effect if it moves?
Well, we're getting theoretical chemo because we can't get a jar of gravity or ether. So now we're talking about the experimental theoretical frameworks that these gifted, brilliant men use to try to guide their actions. So now we're in the theory part of things and why people are theorizing in a certain way.
We're just eons further along theoretically with electrostatics because you can actually introduce some electrostatics to it and see the change. You can't introduce some gravity in there. You can't actually manipulate and introduce gravity and verify you've isolated it.
In my what I've seen with electrostatics, as far as this goes, they tend to cause a repulsing force in this case. So I'm not sure. Yeah, when you're dealing with dielectrics, you're going to have a repulsion. We have an attraction.
If they're both, what are they? So you're saying they're both charged positively? Yeah.
Two lead balls grounded together. How would you say they're charged?
They're probably neutral. They have a resting electrostatic potential.
Okay. So what is that would that neutral potential be an attraction or repulsion?
Well, it depends on what the increase was on, right? So if one of the objects had an increase in charge, then it would be positive, right? And then there would be pressure mediation that takes place. So.
And this will always be the exact same charge. This will always be the exact same charge, causing the balls to move at, well, I shouldn't say exact, very close to the same charge always. The relationship will always be the same to cause an attraction at a given rate.
Well, sure, if you get enough charge, it would.
Well, do you think that these balls in Blue's laboratory or Blue's garage are charged to the same voltage every day, all day?
Well, no, like
CGI.
I'm saying they're in the background medium and they could be actually gaining an electrostatic charge. Like that's what I'm saying.
And then you should get unpredictable results.
Well, can you leave something? Can you ground something and leave it alone forever?
I don't think you have to. You have to do it for the duration of your test. And yes, you can do that.
You can. Oh, okay. So you have to constantly try to keep it grounded, or what'll happen if you don't do that? What happens?
That's what wire does.
But if you don't do that, what happens?
Wire accomplished. From what I've seen, not a whole hell of a lot.
Charge.
Yes, exactly. It builds up in charge.
Yeah, but not in this case. It's in a. He's got it lined with copper and grounded. So
both of those are electrostatic.
Look, this is all well and good, Moyek. Okay, but
oh, shut up, you cunt!
WITSIT, can this variable be manipulated? That's all we need. I need to know. Can it be
yes, electrostatics can be. Yes, there's a specific mechanism. The name of it's eluding me right now, but yeah, like Zach has one.
You've never
so we can switch off this dielectric thing, and so it's not a cause or a cause.
Oh, yeah, that's the problem. You'll never be able to get rid of it. You can only just manipulate it, as in add to it.
No, but how can we remove it so we can say that it's a cause
it's impossible.
Or not a cause?
It's impossible.
So we can't manipulate that variable then.
But you can't
you
can only add to it
while maintaining the mass.
Yeah, you can't get rid of it.
Here's what you could just add to it a fucking lot, and then when it doesn't do anything, you know that it's not doing that. So there you go.
Well, have you ever done that?
No, but it could be done.
Yeah, exactly. And then whenever it does actually cause an attraction, well, that's kind of like.
Well, it won't. It won't. WITSIT.
Can we just take a moment and thank WITSIT for actually being pretty cordial today and not going on a crazy fast rant like he usually does?
Yes.
This is the most reasonable that I've seen him in a really long time and agreeable.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you very much, WITSIT.
I got a lot more out of it.
It's because he's tired.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm gonna catch up with you. I do like it this way better myself, but I think I have to do a stream a little bit later, so I gotta go get it ready.
Could you explain what electrostatics is, please?
We already did. So I'm gonna catch up with y'all on the flip side. Peace out.
Peace, man.
Hey, WITSIT.
Yeah, WITSIT. I didn't get an answer.
Electrostatics is resting electricity. It's like instead of flowing in like a river, it just sits and rests
like a pond
in place.
WITSIT.